Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gloomy Goozers, where we give you the latest in geek news. Isn't it such a great time to be a geek when all geek culture is accepted by the bigwigs of Hollywood studios? And, they get it just like we do, and they don't ruin the things we love. I'm sorry, wait, what? Okay, how we doing? How we doing? Geeky Geezers.
Did we just stumble into an alternate universe or something?
Look, I'm just saying,
I know. I'm
I
with you.
I'm sorry, I had a nightmare the other night that I watched the new Superman movie. Superman Legacy, is that what they're working on? That's
That's
what it's
what
called?
the going title is. You're talking about the James Gunn thing, right?
Yeah, and I was watching it. It was on Amazon Prime of all places. And I think Lex Luthor was in it, and so was the who's the Walking Phoenix Joker was also in it in the same costume he was wearing in the movie. And he
Gee.
was messing with Superman, and like Superman's in a diner, and like, or maybe it's Clark Kent, and he gives him a bunch of small people that are dead, and it's like the tissue compression eliminator that the Master used. And then Superman gets all upset and goes out, and I think he messes up a building, and then like Lex Luthor says it's all part of his plan, so Superman will get sued by the company that owns that building, and like all these people are dead in this bus, and then you're there in the room, and you're complaining to me that I was watching the movie at all. And I said, well, it's on Prime streaming, it's free, or at least it's on,
God.
it's like even giving it attention. And it's like, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I didn't even want to watch this stupid thing. I run this channel where I have to keep up on things. And I just remember being very depressed by what was being done. Like there was some psychological stuff being done to Superman in this movie. And I realized I just wasn't having a good time. And I don't know if
So
that's an omen of things to come.
here is my question.
Okay.
How many times have you had dreams that turned out to be prophetic? This is a question I once asked my mother because she oftentimes would tell me dreams that she had that she was concerned about. How many times have you had dreams that turned out to be actually prophetic?
I don't know. None.
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, Boomer. Although, what I will say is oftentimes your subconscious, strings together dreams based on, things you really are concerned about. And let's be honest. Given the track record we've had with DC films, those are actually pretty reasonable concerns.
So I have anxiety about Superman. Is that what you're saying?
I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, and that's just that doesn't even require, digging too deeply into the analysis of your dreams. That's just the history we've had with Warner Brothers films. I am not surprised. But what's funny is as you were sharing that about the dream, and I'm thinking through dream logic and the way these things tend to work out, it made me think of I've been working on some videos using like AI generated artwork and stuff like that. And I don't know if any of you guys in the chat have ever done this. And by the way, hello, the chat. We will say hi to you all individually in just a second. But like when I go to Midjourney, right, and I do imagine, Batman fighting Dracula, right, and it'll generate 4 different pictures
Right.
of its conception of Batman versus, and then you get to go, oh, I like this one, res this up, and then you could do other things with it, or you go, I like this one, but give me 4 variations on it or whatever. And what's very interesting is as it shows you 25% done, 30% done, 55% done, and so forth. And you will see these foggy images as it's, putting it together. And I swear to you, it's like looking into a dream, like a dream taking form. And I'm starting to go, my gosh, does AI operate the way our dreams operate? It's kind of freaky, especially then when you see what it actually comes up with, and Batman has like 6 fingers on one hand and an extra leg or something like that.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because Data would have dreams on Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting that even though he's an intelligent android, he still has dreams. And if you think about animals have dreams too.
Absolutely, they do.
Dog, I
Absolutely.
know for certain dogs have dreams because I've had
Yep.
dogs in the past, and I've seen like this one dog we had. She was like lying, sleeping, and then like she'd be her eyes would be fluttering, and she'd be going ruff ruff, and she'd be like doing muffled barks, and sometimes her legs would even move a little bit. Like
You ever catch them wake up from a dream?
yeah, and they're like, whoa, what? And
And they
they
look
look at
around
you
like,
like,
what the heck? You know?
I
And
yeah
yeah.
yeah yeah. It's like a
Kind of the way
person.
I do, actually.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, she's probably dreaming about chasing the rabbit or some other animal, right? That's probably what the dog is dreaming about,
One would
right?
hope, yeah. I mean, and hopefully it's a good dream. Hopefully it's not a bad dream, but sometimes that happens too.
Do animals have nightmares? I never even thought of that. That was the one
Probably.
weird thing on Star Trek when that episode Data was having the nightmares, remember?
Right. And they did a great job I mean, that's what the story was about. So they focused on the analysis. And I think he like hooked himself up to the holodeck so other people could see his dreams and help him figure out what was going on. And they literally figured out that in this one particular case, there was this alien technology that was trying to communicate with him, and it was communicating to him through his dreams using allegory.
Right.
And they had to break it down to figure out what was going on with it. But that wasn't the only episode that dealt with Data having dreams, and he discussed why they were there and the fact that partly it was there because his creator wanted him to have as close to a conscious experience of humanity as possible. But it also and the question came up during one of these episodes, why do people dream to begin with, and would it or would it not be valuable to an artificial intelligence to also go through that process? The current and here's where with my my psychology major in college comes out. The current operating assumption or belief about what might be the purpose of dreams, and it relates directly to what you were just talking about with cats and dogs and other animals clearly dreaming as well, is that it is possible that the mind as part of an adaptive survival mechanism creates dreams to create scenarios for you to work through things you might be concerned about, things that you might be afraid of, being chased by something, survival, and working through these kinds of scenarios without actually being in that danger, so that if it ever comes up, you're ready to hide from the monster or fight or whatever. So
interesting.
Obviously for humans there's far deeper things, like how do I deal with a boss giving me grief at work or something like that, or gee, how do I deal with the idea of showing up to school completely naked and no one noticing? I'm sure that comes up all the time.
You know what? That would be a great idea for one of your Friday night streams. Talk about dreams one night. Now that
wow,
I'm thinking about
it would be.
In fact, if there's a guest in the community that might be an expert on that subject, that you could have them on too. What do you think?
I'll have to think through that. Yeah,
think about that. Yeah. But anyway, in the meantime, I should say hi to the chat.
Absolutely. Hello, the chat. I believe Big Al was first. At least he was the first that showed up on my chat.
They're calling again. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be talking a bit. Yeah, we'll be getting.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Frasier for sure.
Good evening, Agent Murder Troy. Like the high res Lara Croft. You mean Angelina Jolie? I remember.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get higher resolution than
Summer of 2001. I recall that was one of the worst summer for movies in history. And now I look back at it and I said, you know what? We had Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft. We had Atlantis: The Lost Empire from Disney.
Yeah.
We had the first Fast and the Furious movie. We had Jet Li breaking some guy's neck in Kiss of the Dragon, while also going up against evil French people throughout the entire movie, which was a bizarre summer movie, Kiss of the Dragon. But I look back on summer 2001, and there were at least some decent movies. And this summer, in my opinion, is one of the worst blockbuster summers on record. And I am displeased or not pleased with Hollywood at the moment over that. But
yeah,
what else is new? I'm sure next summer will be even better. We'll see with the strike going on. You are not Ron Troy, but the one on the banner.
Yeah,
I got you. Well, that's because there is a high-res Lara Croft coming out now.
Yeah,
we'll get into
and we'll
that
be talking
as we
about
go
that.
on.
Welcome, Adenui.
What madness is Boomer talking about? I'm talking about the messed up dream I had the other night. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I keep waiting for Zaslav to clean house and whip Warner Brothers into shape, and part of me wonders if he's just trying to prop it up and put a new lick of paint on it and sell it before the termites eat it away. Okay, that's what I'm wondering
Yeah.
is what's going on here, because this is just I
And you
don't know
were
what they're
there,
doing
and
over
you
there.
were there, and you were there. But you couldn't have been, could you?
Yes, of course. Welcome, Horizon Talker. Okay, and I stopped assuming dreams meant anything a long time ago. I don't know. Like I said, that'll be a good topic for our Friday stream. Welcome, Netter. You could catch me on her stream last night if you could time travel 24 hours. We were watching Cobra. But you can
Absolutely.
always catch the repeated viewing. That's
And
an
I love
excellent
you too,
Sylvester
Netter.
Stallone movie. In fact, deleted scenes to talk about Cobra. Apparently, Cobra and some other movie with I think Cyndi Lauper and which Baldwin was it? Was it Adam Baldwin? They were
I didn't even know Cyndi Lauper was in a movie.
yeah, and apparently they were based on the same book that Cobra was, so I'm very curious about it.
Weird.
Lester the Skeptic Tank, welcome.
Yep.
If I missed anybody else, apologies, but we have to roll on. We have a lot to discuss tonight. Deleted scenes, welcome. What's this, Matanui? If your dog is having a bad dream, tends to make noises that almost sound like whimpers that are howling. Yep, that's what she sounded like. Yep. That describes it. Yeah. Because they're not like full on barks. it's
Right. Well, you assume that their nervous system probably works very similar to ours. There's
right.
Neuroinhibitors that fill their synapses so they don't hurt themselves during their dreams and whatnot.
Well, this is why they're man's best friend, right?
There is definitely some social evolution that some parallel social evolution that's happened between dogs and humans. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
That being said, when your dog brings you a lizard they caught outside and drops it in front of you, like they think, yes, I didn't want that. Thank you for bringing it to me. No, it's like,
oh, there is no way that our our cat or our dog that would bring us, something that it caught. There is no way it wouldn't get me fawning over them and thanking them, because I want to know that you got those skills just in case.
I forgot what happened with Scully. That was her dog's name. Oh, anyway, anyone who knows me, there can't be too many dogs named Scully, so I could be just doxing myself there. But yeah, guess what she was named? Guess what she was named after?
I don't know.
From the X-Files. From the X-Files. Never mind. All right, are we ready to go on? Speaking of TV shows and thinking about good old TV shows from the 90s,
Big Al brought it up at the beginning there, and so now that's on my mind. A Frasier spinoff from Cheers.
Yes.
Kind of a surprise spinoff. Kelsey Grammer played I was just talking psychology, right? Played a clinical psychiatrist was he psychologist? He never actually administered drugs, so I'm going to assume it was psychologist. And it was very much in that Cheers formula where you'd have these people, these regulars that would come into the bar and they would talk about their wife or their ex or their whoever their family is outside that you never saw, right? Because there was Norm had Vera and so forth. You never saw her or whatever.
Yeah.
And he would talk about, actually, I'm pretty sure he would talk about his wife or his ex-wife, Lilith.
Lilith, correct.
Who eventually did guest. So she actually did show up in the bar eventually, played by BB Newirth. Thank you, Netter. BB Newirth. And she was a recurring, not, a regular, but a recurring guest star. And that would play into eventually they decided to do a spin-off show called Frasier.
Yes.
And he would have had to have moved from Boston, which is where Cheers was and was set, to the other side of the country, Seattle,
yeah,
where he had a talk radio show. Yeah, back in the day, I listened to a lot of talk radio back then, so I totally responded to this really well.
This was like a self-help psychology type show, like Dr. Moore or something like that, right?
And people would call in with problems and whatnot. And of course, we really only heard the funny stuff we didn't hear the, boring, whatever type stuff. Because otherwise it wouldn't be much of a show.
I
But
remember Roz. She was the one who would take the calls, right?
Roz was his
Yeah,
screener and manager, and
yes.
she was awesome too, because every now and again she'd put something through and he'd have this look like, why did you put this through? And she'd be like, it's good radio.
that actress played the voice of Roz on Superman the Animated Series. No, that actress played the voice of Volcana on Superman the Animated Series. The one who played Roz. You could tell it was her voice.
Wow. Yeah, she had a very distinctive voice.
Yes,
so yeah,
yes.
that kind of makes sense. And so again, BB Newirth became a little bit more often. Obviously, she had more call to be there. Ex-wife, they shared a child together. But he lived with his infirm father.
Mm-hmm.
He walked with a cane. He needed physical therapy. He was an ex-cop.
Right.
And let's see, what was his dad's name again? I forget.
I'll have to look it up. But I remember his father was more like a working class guy,
right?
And Frasier, if you knew him from Cheers, and of course Frasier, he's a very what do you call it?
Ivy League kind of a preppy. And
I think what happened was they got that from the mother, right? Because the mother was more from that class.
They got a little bit from the mother, but definitely from their education. So you had a cop who probably never went to college, right?
Right.
But he and his brother definitely went to Ivy League schools. So you definitely get that hoity-toityness, to them. His brother, played by
Martin Crane, was his dad.
Martin was Crane, his father.
Yes,
that's right.
Played by John Mahoney.
Exactly, John Mahoney. Rest in peace. And his brother was. This is important because we're going to talk a little bit about him. I should just open up the IMDb.
Niles Crane, played by David Hyde Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce, who's also a great voice actor. He did a lot of voice work, but the kind that you would absolutely recognize him every single time you heard his voice. It's like, oh, that's Niles from Frasier. I remember. But and his brother had marital problems too. And wasn't he divorced as well? And then he was interested in the physical therapist who was taking care of their father. Daphne, right.
Yeah, a very nice looking British lady, played by Jane Leaves, I believe. Yes.
Who I've seen in a number of things as well. I don't know if she ever did any voice acting, but I've seen her, in some guest appearances and whatnot. As I recall, the character of Daphne had emigrated from Manchester. I don't know why I remember that. I just do.
Okay.
I don't know if the actress and her accent are actually Manchester accent. So I don't,
I remember one episode where I guess some kid that bullied them in school was going to be their plumber, right? He was going to come and do the plumbing, and like, well, you know what? They say that the best revenge is living well, and look how well you're doing now, Frasier. Okay.
Yeah.
And and I forgot how it goes along, and like the plumber said, "Oh, I didn't even realize. Oh, I was stupid back then. I apologize." It's. I don't know if you remember that episode at all or not, but
vaguely.
Yeah.
And it turns out that living well isn't exactly the same thing you think it is.
Plus, plumbers make money anyway.
He's doing great for himself.
Yes.
Kind of puts that into perspective as well.
Yes.
But at least he got his head out of his toilet.
It's interesting when you look back, though. I keep thinking that there was a Cheers television universe, right? Because you had Frasier. Wings, I believe, takes place in that same universe because the sitcom Wings had an episode where Frasier, Crane, and Lilith guest starred, where they showed up. So I'm thinking this has to be in that same universe, right?
I like to think so, sure. And there's been a lot of, and I think the Wings universe also, did that also connect to like Empty Nest?
I think so. You're
Golden
right.
Girls and
I think so. Yeah. So it was all this, and you could see these characters all existing in the same world, right? I mean,
well, especially since, these are slice of life type stories
Yeah.
that would not have any impact other than maybe, if they lived in the Washington, state, they might listen to Frasier on the radio. That's about the only interaction they'd probably have with each other. But I don't remember where Wings was set, but I know like Golden Girls and Empty Nest was in Florida. So
I think Wings was New England somewhere, I think, but I could
that
be
makes
wrong.
sense,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
would probably be near Cheers in
Yeah,
Boston and
yeah.
so forth. So yeah. But yeah, in my fandoms, as I would do my role playing games and whatnot, I always imagined that if we did a story that took place in this city or that city, I'd always do a little Easter egg. If for some reason I had a story set in Washington State, you better believe they'd hear Frasier on the radio or they'd see an ad for him. But there'd also be a Twin Peaks reference, and
Huh.
who knows what else. Nantucket, yeah.
Nantucket. Okay, that's
That
where
makes
Wings
sense.
took place. Only the last 2 minutes of St. Elsewhere happens. The rest is in Tommy Westfall's Snow Globe.
Yeah, I know about the whole.
Wasn't there a
Westfall.
crossover with Hill Street Blues with St. Elsewhere? So they said Hill Street Blues never happened either. That was all part of the same.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know.
a fail. That is a fail. That is a fail.
Well, but it is an interesting concept, because if you think about a shared, television universe or whatever, they all take place in somebody's mind, right? If it's not a fictional autistic boy, it's the writers and showrunners of these shows in reality. So still, I guess, but
don't forget about Eddie the dog.
Oh, Eddie, yeah, I did love Eddie. He was
Eddie.
He was awesome.
Was he also in the Mask movie with Jim Carrey? That same dog.
I don't know, but I vaguely seem to recall them being at least the same breed, so very possibly.
I'm trying to think though. Tim Daly, aka Joe Hackett from Wings, was the voice of Superman.
Voice of
the
Superman,
animated series.
that's right.
There could be a whole Cheers universe voice actors lending themselves to DC animated series that I'm not even thinking of. This could be a thing. Of course, Lowell went on to play Sandman in the Spider-Man 3 movie too, but
of course I do have to bring up one guest appearance that is only important because of the story I want to tell about it, and that was Patrick Kerr played Noel Shemsky, who is the KACL technical assistant on the show, an avid Star Trek aficionado who speaks fluent Klingon and constantly harassed Roz. And that ties into the episode where Frasier was going to speak at the synagogue. I believe it was for his son's bar mitzvah or something. Wanted to do it in Hebrew. Gets the speech written for him and memorizes it phonetically, only to find out that he's had a prank pulled on him, and it wasn't Hebrew, it was Klingon. And I'm sitting here watching this episode, and you don't know it going into it. You're seeing it from the point of view of Frasier, thinking, this is Hebrew. And I'm sitting there listening to it going, not knowing Hebrew myself, going, wait a minute, that's Klingon. And then I see the reactions of everyone, in the synagogue looking at each other like, because from their perspective, it's just gibberish, right? And he thinks he's doing so well, only to find the reveal at the end that it was all Klingon. It was probably, for me, one of the biggest laughs of that show. And I love the show. It always made me laugh, but that one really stuck with me.
Kelsey Grammer, we didn't mention by name, but of course a delight. Yeah,
absolutely. Voice of Sideshow Bob in on
The Simpsons. That's correct.
Absolutely, he's definitely got that. That's the voice you go to when you're looking for that classy, deep. I don't know. He doesn't really have an accent, but he could easily slip into a British accent. he sounds like he would be Ivy League, you know.
Hey guys, I just came home. What did I miss? Frasier talk.
And you know, Boomer talking about his dreams. It
We're
got a
not
little
talking.
weird
We're
for a
not talking
while.
about that dream because it was a weird one.
It did. It got
At
a
least I
little
didn't show
weird.
up to school in my underwear, right? That's the.
It can happen. It can.
I've
Happen.
never had that dream. I've had school dreams, but not that one.
Remember the line from Real Genius? From Real Genius. I had a dream last night. Was it that one where you're standing on a mountain dressed in Greek god robes with a bunch of naked women surrounding you, throwing pickles at you? No, only me.
That's a great movie, Real Genius. That's Val Kilmer, right?
Yes, it is.
That's a
yes,
classic
it is.
80s movie.
That's another one where just through the whole thing you just laugh. And I'm glad that I watched it on, you know, I had it on physical media because then I could rewind it because I'd be laughing so hard I'd miss.
You'd miss the next joke.
Exactly.
Moose the dog was not in the mask. Thank you for clearing that up, Big Al. Well, he was busy doing Frasier, I'm sure. I think he did die, though, didn't he? Moose the dog. And I'm assuming the actor who played the father also passed away.
Yes, he did.
A few years back.
Yes, he did.
What I knew about John Mahoney was that he was actually a British-born actor that came to the United States. I think he loved the United States, that he actually even affected an American accent as best he could because he loved being an American. He actually came from England and loved the United States so much. But
yeah,
so that was interesting. But let's see here, though. I'm trying to think, though. It finally came and went, didn't it? Though I mean, it lasted a few seasons. I remember that was on was that on Thursdays, if my memory serves. Was Frasier a Thursday show?
I don't remember for certain. I think maybe, yeah.
I remember that was NBC, correct?
Yes.
NBC was the channel for sitcoms back in the day. They were the ones who had Seinfeld. They had Friends, and I keep thinking it was part of that 2-hour block with Friends and Seinfeld.
Could have been.
Mad About You, was that? No, that was a different channel, wasn't it?
Mad About You was the same channel as Friends. So
so it was. Yeah. So maybe that was on as well.
Yeah, there was another. That show had crossovers too. So.
Yes. So yeah, because I know Phoebe's sister would show up on Mad About You because Phoebe Friends had a twin sister who was and she would show up on Mad About You sometimes. But I miss 90s television.
Yeah, Ursula was the sister's name, right? Exactly.
90s sitcoms were actually rather good because they did start focusing more on the comedy. I kept thinking that starting in the 70s, there was comedy, but there was also messaging. Like there'd be messages in the stuff, right? And more. And then I think when we get to the 90s, you just start getting straight up comedies again, right? Remember that? Seinfeld, Friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Mananui. I don't want to know what Troy's internet history looks like. I don't know where that came from, but it's funny that you should say it because I am getting ready to share a tab with you for the next piece.
All right. So anyway, Frasier, we'll talk a little more about Frasier later. But before then, we have some sad news. Some of you in the community may already know what's going on, but we should, I might have you speak to this, Troy, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, I will. So if you want to
go ahead and share. Yeah, let me go look down.
This is just my Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it.
There. Okay.
This is Doomcock sharing this. I'm devastated to learn that my friend and brother Cardinal Sin died today. He was a kind and gentle soul. I'm heartbroken. I wish I could have said goodbye and told him how much I loved him. God bless you, Cardinal Sin. You will be remembered and missed. There are no words, and you can see he shares the Linus GIF or whatever. He was a wonderful person. Although, you know, when you never know what to say in these kinds of circumstances, but Doomcock says, God bless you, Cardinal Sin, which is a little ironic because Cardinal Sin was an atheist.
Okay.
But, you know, whatever, you say whatever you need to say in order to but yeah, even someone named Benny said, man, he was the only person who would talk to me in Friday Night Frolics. He made me feel welcomed, a very nice dude. May his soul rest with the Lord. Master of the TDS, I'm so sad. He will be missed. people offering condolences. Chris Gore, this is awful news. I knew him as well. He had a wealth of film knowledge, a terrible loss. Oh, here's a schmo sharing something too. What does he have to say? Yeah, I'm pretty heartbroken too. I was supposed to have been on his September 1st live stream and couldn't. Stopped into the chat and he totally understood. But now looking back, I just can't even. It's true. Yeah, I was supposed to be on. You know, you hear this and I'm like, wait. I was literally just supposed to be on his stream 2 weeks ago. What happened? You know? Mm-hmm. But the only thing that I can speak to on this, I know that he had a history of some health problems. He did have a GoFundMe back in, I want to say 2017 for some really bad back pain that he was having that wasn't covered by his health care and whatnot. And so he was trying to get some help with that. He was out of work for a while. He had some serious depression issues that he talked about within the scope of that. I'm not sharing anything that he didn't share publicly himself. So I know he had, health struggles. I don't know the specifics, but it is always a shock when someone relatively young, definitely younger than me, passes. But yeah, I bring this one up. This is a little different than the in remembrances we generally bring up here on Geeky Geezers because there's no news article to share. No. This isn't a well-known celebrity. This is a celebrity within our YouTube community.
Right.
This is, and I had previously interacted with him on, I can't remember if it was Pop's channel or if it was on Orville Nation, but he was definitely in all those communities. So I know I shared a stream with him at least once. That's why I was supposed to have been on with him at the beginning of this month. Netter, I know, was was thinking about reaching out to him to get him on Thursday things. It's tough. It really is. And so the only thing that I can say, folks, is we are not owed another day. Reach out to people and enjoy them while you can, because they may not be there tomorrow. You never know.
Right. But like I said, the love goes out to him and his family. I guess this is just a sad turn of events, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
but there's a lot of love pouring out though from the community. I'll say.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Well, wait. Let's go back to the beginning. How many comments here? I'm seeing at least 135.
Yeah.
I mean, if I refresh this, maybe there's even more than that. No, 135. But this is, of course, from 2 days ago.
Right.
But yeah, that's rough. But yeah, so I wanted to bring this up just because it's kind of what we do. That is part of the news here, and
yeah,
like you said, definitely he will be missed.
So appreciate the people in the community while they're here, and I appreciate all of you tuning in tonight. I really do, actually. So as Netter says, you could be anywhere, but you're here. Right?
Yeah, which we appreciate, even though it's probably also a sign that you're crazy. But that's fine too.
We're all a little mad right now in this crazy decade, which
it's a clown world, isn't it?
We're only in year 4 of so far. If you're like me and you count the when it starts with the 0 instead of the 1. But anyway.
Well, absolutely. And the next news article that we have for you, I want to say is a positive sign, but there's a little bit of Disney daffiness here too.
This is a really daffy thing. I'm going to look forward to dissecting this. Actually, deleted scenes, you might want to start saving your pennies though, right? I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. So Disney to release genuinely insane Blu-ray box set featuring 100 animated films this fall. So on the one hand, part of me wants to say, well, good. This is Disney acknowledging the importance for physical media, right? If only because they're probably looking for any revenue they can generate, right? But 100 animated films in Blu-ray, they're looking at a retail price of about $1,500. And when you start looking at what's in this box set, it's a lot of stuff that's already been released. It's already out there.
Okay, imagine that your typical Blu-ray goes for, at least a Disney one would go for $20. I'm being generous here, but yeah,
Right.
maybe $20. 20 times 100 would be $2,000. So you're saving $500. Plus, it comes with digital codes, and you get it. Let's read this article. I'm excited because we love Disney on this channel, right?
I suppose.
We don't. Anyway, no, I'm sorry. I have mixed feelings on Disney. I never loved them. I admitted at one point they were good.
Yeah, at one
Now
point they
they're
were.
not so good. In
And
the 90s,
even in the times that we now remember fondly, they had some stinking dumb ideas going on. The Disney Vault, the direct-to-DVD sequels that they did. There was a lot of dumb things that they did in the past.
let's get into this. Disney will release the Disney Legacy Animated Film Collection featuring 100 animated films from Disney, Walt Disney Animation Studios, and Pixar later this year. It's packaged together as a 3-volume set that unfolds into your own storybook, and it's due to be a must-have for physical media collectors. The set is fashioned with original poster designs that comes with digital codes for every movie alongside a lithograph from Disney's upcoming feature film Wish, a certificate of authenticity, and crystal Mickey Mouse ears engraved with the Disney 100 logo. The limited edition collection will be available on November 14th with pre-orders beginning on Walmart.com on September 18th and has a retail price of $1,500. What's fascinating about the set is that it includes a wide array of classic Walt Disney Animation Studios features along with beloved Pixar favorites and a smattering of films, many of them direct-to-video sequels to earlier masterworks created by the since-shuttered Disney Toon Studios. That includes Tinkerbell, Return to Neverland, The Jungle Book 2, and Both Planes and its sequel. There are also
Remember when I was talking about direct-to-DVD sequels that sucked? Yeah. Okay, there we go.
We'll get into this. I'm going to read off each one. You
Yeah.
can do your little comments. We'll be for another 3 hours, okay?
Yeah.
There are also Disney animated features produced outside of its animated studios, including Henry Selick's The Nightmare Before Christmas
Mhm.
and his live-action animation hybrid James and the Giant Peach.
Both of which I already have on DVD. Just going to point that out.
Yeah, I got those on Blu-ray myself, but yeah, as
Mhm.
well as Tim Burton's sorely underrated Frankenweenie.
It is underrated. That's true.
And what's and that's what makes the set so lovely. It's a varied survey of the company's animated output from all of its different studios and partnerships. It's also great if you hadn't picked up physical copies of some of the recent animated fare that went direct or nearly direct to Disney Plus, like Pixar's Soul, Luca Turning Red, or Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon.
All of which I have zero interest in. And
of
Strange
course,
World.
And Strange World, everyone's favorite.
Yeah, I have no interest in any of those at all anyway.
If you want to know every little title included in this Magic Collection, here you go. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, the original, the one that made Disney. Yeah.
Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi. Those are the big 5. Those are the 5 original Walt Disney animated
all of which
features.
have already been released previously. So
they are classics. They stand up against the test of time as some of the best animated movies ever made. So, good on that.
The next 2, I have to wonder if they'll come with little warnings on them. Saludos amigos and the Three Caballeros.
Most likely already been censored. Probably there was a character with a cigar and they had to censor it out. I used to have one of those. I think they came in a documentary I had about Walt's excursions into South America, but I think that got damaged in the flood. But
I remember seeing both of them. So
Make Mine Music, I have that in a Disney. Actually, I don't know if I have Make Mine Music. I don't remember. I think I had it at one point. Fun and Fancy Free. Nope, I don't have that because the Mickey and the Beanstalk segment was included on a Disney Treasures Mickey thing, and I just didn't care enough about the other one.
Gotcha.
Of course, I was a little annoyed they just included half of that movie on the Walt Disney Treasures edition when they should have included the Wonderful World of Disney version of Mickey and the Beanstalk, which had different narration. Instead of putting Edgar instead of Charlie McCarthy and Edgar, what's his name? You know, the ventriloquist thing. never mind. I'm going off on a tangent here. I have, believe it or not, I never consider myself a pixie duster. I always liked old school Disney, and I bought
Sure,
every one of those Walt Disney
that was
Treasures
good stuff.
DVDs that came out. I bought all the classic movies, save for Robin Hood. Though oddly enough, I do have a digital copy of that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on. Three, and if that gets taken away from me, I'll cry over not having the Disney Robin Hood. I'm kidding, of course. I do not like the Disney Robin Hood, but we'll save that rant for another time. Okay, make my music fun and fancy free. Melody time. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's the one that the Legend of Sleepy Hollow comes out of.
Cinderella. I recently rebought that because my copy got damaged in the flood, so I got the Blu-ray. I want to give you guys a little note that if you want to buy a Disney Blu-ray for really cheap, go look on eBay.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised how many of these things are being sold for like $5.
and you gotta love Cinderella.
That makes me not love it as much when you talk like the mice did. That whole segment annoyed me.
I
It's
love
not my
that.
thing. Okay, whatever. It's my mom's favorite Disney movie too. That's interesting. Alice in Wonderland.
Oh,
Peter
yeah.
Pan, Lady
Mhm.
and the Tramp, Sleeping Beauty. That's a great one, Sleeping Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I should pick that up on Blu-ray. I have the DVD, but I should get the Blu-ray of that. 101 Dalmatians, Sword in the Stone, Jungle Book, Aristocats have them on DVD.
Yep.
Robin Hood, like I said, has a digital copy. Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I think I
Right.
have that somewhere. Rescuers, Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron have the second DVD release of that because the original DVD release of that was crap. The second DVD release
Kind of
was
wonder which
cleaner.
one they're gonna put on here.
Well, this can be the Blu-ray version, which apparently was only available to Disney Club members. You could
Mm.
not buy the Black Cauldron Blu-ray in a regular store. So if you want
Gotcha.
that and you didn't have the access to the other version, you can get this set. That's what I think this is going to be the lore of this set for the completionists. There are going to be movies on here that have not been released anywhere else. So that's probably what's going to sucker people in. Great Mouse Detective saw that in the
Well,
movies.
you should of course preface that with never released officially, but I'll bet you could find it.
Well, go to Michael French's channel to learn more about that too.
Right.
Black Cauldron, Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company. Those are my Disney movies growing up. That's what I went to the theaters to see, and nobody else did. Oliver and Company, I think, did okay though. That was Billy Joel did the soundtrack to that, right?
Yep.
That was like a retelling of Oliver, but with
Yep.
animals. Little Mermaid,
Mhm.
Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. Like Aladdin a lot. That kind of got me back into Disney, especially with the animated series and of course the feature with Robin Williams. I did like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Had the Super Nintendo game back in the day. It was pretty good. Tim Burton's Night Before Christmas. Obsessed with that movie. Senior year of high school. Got the VHS when it came out. Loved that movie to death. That it was not released as a Disney movie too. This is a bunch of BS. You did not like this movie when it came out. You threw it under the Touchstone label. You did not release it as a Disney feature. Now you're embracing it because it's popular. Oh, it was always a Disney feature. No, it wasn't. It was
Right.
Threw it under Touchstone. I remember. Lion King, a Goofy movie. Here now we're getting into animated.
Yeah, now I've heard a lot of the younger generation talking about the Goofy movie with great fondness. I know nothing of it.
It was, I think, a movie follow up to the Goof Troop series. And it's odd they have this on here where they don't have the DuckTales movie on here on Blu-ray. Okay, Pocahontas, Toy Story,
And
James.
you know how I feel about Pocahontas.
Yeah, you think there's some historical inaccuracies in that movie.
Oh, you think so?
Okay, Toy Story, James and the Giant Peach. Love James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, one of the more ambitious Disney animated features in the 90s. Doesn't follow the novel, but I think it's
not at all. No.
But I still think it's a pretty good movie. It has a great villain in it.
Oh, absolutely.
The Inquisitor type character in that. Hercules, liked it.
Same thing. Plays very loose with some of the
mythology, but you have James Woods as what is it, Hades? Come on, that was funny.
Mhm.
Mulan, probably maybe that played loose with the Chinese legend better than the remake, I'm sure. Bugs Life.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes. It's weird that and Ants came out the same year.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that people were
both good in different ways.
Different ways, yeah. Tarzan. It was interesting. Edgar Rice Burroughs, when I think I could have swore there was an interview with him thinking that he thought Tarzan should have been an animated feature when it was originally being made live action. So I thought it was interesting Disney finally made an animated version of that. Toy Story 2, Fantasia and Fantasia 2000.
Yeah.
The Tigger movie, Dinosaur, Emperor's New Groove,
Yeah.
Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Monsters Inc. Okay, so these are good. I actually
Atlantis is another underrated one. I don't think it ever got its due.
Atlantis is underrated. So is Emperor's New Groove. Dinosaur sucked. I'm gonna say that out loud.
I didn't even know about it.
It's terrible. Tigger movies a direct to DVD thing too, a direct to home video thing they're sticking on there.
Yeah.
Return to Neverland, another return to another home video one. I almost think they should have skipped those and put like some of the live action features on here, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
Yeah.
or Mary Poppins or something like that. Thrown those on
agree
there
with you.
instead of these others. But I guess they were trying to just stick strictly animated. Return to Neverland, Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet.
Lilo and Stitch, I'll bet you that's an edited one. They can't show the washing machine. They got to show the pizza
ridiculous.
box.
Treasure Planet. Oh, I'm gonna get into trouble with a lot of people. I'm not a fan of that movie.
Yeah, I liked it, but you know, there's so much more they could have done with it, and man, they screwed it in the marketing.
I can't get for some reason, and this is just a me thing. Schooners in space, like old-fashioned sailing ships in space, it makes no sense to me. And I know they did that on an episode of Doctor Who with the Pirate Planet, which I think was a Douglas Adams written episode. I don't get it. I think I would have preferred if they had played the sci-fi elements and just had regular spaceships but not have aliens, have be humans in it.
It's a completely different aesthetic. It's steampunk, is what it is.
I didn't want steampunk. I wanted more straight science fiction. I think Long John Silver as a cyborg made sense. I agreed with them there. But yeah, I just
Treasure Planet was to Treasure Island and steampunk what the Black Hole was to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and sci-fi.
Yeah. Okay. Jungle Book 2.
Again, direct to DVD.
Piglet's big movie. Maybe some of you have seen these and they're good. I avoided them like the plague. Maybe some of them, maybe these are like the ones that weren't terrible. I noticed Cinderella 2 isn't on this list, so maybe these are the ones that were better received. I don't know. Finding Nemo. It's funny. I saw that with a friend and we went like the Saturday after it came out and like, oh, are we too old for this? And like the theater was filled with children. It was funny. We were all the way in the back.
Right.
It was a good time, though. I did like Finding Nemo. Brother Bear, that was a chestnut. I didn't care for. No, I tried liking it. I appreciate the fact they were trying to base something off of it into it, legend, but it's just kind of a snooze fest for me. Home on the Range, I didn't bother seeing that one at all. I think it was one with the cows and the cowboys, and that was their last regular animated feature before they started moving over to CG until later on we get to Princess and the Frog. Okay, Incredibles 2004.
That was a classic.
That's a good one.
That one was a classic, yeah.
Pooh's Heffalump movie. Again, haven't seen it. Maybe the Pooh movies stand up better. That's why they're throwing them on here. Maybe they're better, or maybe it's that the Pooh license still costs them money. I don't know. Chicken Little, didn't see it. I was angry at that one because that was when the Walt Disney Animation Studios went over to CG, and I was thinking that defeated the whole point.
Yeah.
Pixar was supposed to be CG. You're supposed to be traditional animation. And
right.
That bothered me. Cars. Did not see that because that's more for children. Meet the Robinsons. Didn't see that. Ratatouille. Didn't see that.
Good.
I've heard good things about Ratatouille, though. I just need to get around to watching it. WALL-E, I finally saw a couple years ago when Birdman wanted to do it for a stream. I'd owned it.
That one's a thinker. You got it. That one causes you to really think about society.
Something about that movie rubs me the wrong way, too. And I think what rubbed me the wrong way was when I got the DVD, it came in an eco-friendly DVD case, which means it was all made out of cardboard. And I probably wasted more plastic trying to house this thing than if you just give me a simple plastic case to put it in Disney.
Yeah.
And eventually I got the Blu-ray. Then I think that got lost in the flood. I still have my digital copy. I could buy it again. You know what? I have my digital copy, and I don't care enough about it to get it again. Anyway, I'm going on a rant, and we don't need to be doing that right now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Up came out after WALL-E. Okay. Tinkerbell the movie, Bolt. I'm starting to wonder some of these animated features like Tinkerbell and Winnie the Pooh, do they still have to pay royalties on those? So, and I guess they figured, well, if we're paying royalties on the originals, we just put all the spin-offs on here. Because I'm seeing
you might
pattern
have
here.
something there.
I'm seeing a pattern here with
this re-releasing these films this way could be their way to extend rights on the characters or something like that.
I'm thinking so, because look at this. You have it's all the Pooh spinoffs and all the Peter Pan spinoffs around here. I'm not seeing like the Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 is not on here.
Right. They're just establishing these characters are falling into public domain, but we are reasserting our trademark on our versions of these characters.
Let's see. Wally, Tinkerbell, Bolt, Up, Princess and
Up
the Frog.
is a heartbreaker.
Up's a good one.
I'll tell you, that one I love so much. I really do.
The Princess and the Frog. That was their last stab at trying to make a traditionally animated Disney movie. I actually went to see that in the theater because I wanted to support them. It lost out to Chipmunks 2: The Squeakquel.
Okay.
The Chipmunk movie. Did you ever see Princess and the Frog?
No, I did not.
It was I appreciated it. It was a big deal because it was the first black Disney princess in this movie, but it made sense. It takes place in New Orleans in the 1930s. The villain was played by Keith David, who was like a
they really play fast and loose with the concept of a princess, don't they?
No. This is why it's a princess, because there's a visiting prince, and I'll put it to this way: her friend, in order for her to break the spell, she has to marry a prince. Do you understand?
Sure, but that doesn't make her a princess.
She is not a princess. If she marries a prince, she becomes a princess.
That's not how it works. You don't become queen by marrying a king either.
Well, I don't know if that's how it worked in the cartoon anyway. Maybe
she becomes the prince consort. And then when he becomes king, she becomes the king's consort.
Something.
I'm just saying.
It was a good animated feature from Disney. One of the last good ones they did. I liked the villain. He was like a conjurer, like Nolan style, voodoo type guy.
The whole voodoo thing. Yeah,
I liked. Hoodoo maybe is more the proper term. He had this great song where he's like, "I've got friends on the other side," and it's like this whole jazz number, which I think they should continue much
I've
longer
had
in
some
the movie.
friends suggest to me that I would probably enjoy it just for that.
You couldn't get past the princess part.
That didn't bother me at all. I just had no interest. What did this 2010, 2000 something like that? When did this come out? It was. Yeah,
you don't want to watch a cartoon. Just say it out loud.
Well, if I was going to watch a cartoon, it had to be something pretty good. I did, for example, see Monsters University, and was very disappointed because it wasn't as good as Monsters.
I stayed away from Monster University. I kind of felt, Mike and Sully, they were working class guys. They didn't go to university, so why are they having them go to university in the prequel? That didn't make any sense to me. But
yeah.
That's what people used to do. They didn't always go to college. Sometimes they got the job at the plant and worked their way up. That's how it used to work in the United States. And there's nothing wrong with that. Princess and the Frog, Toy Story 3, decent third movie, I think. Tangled, I didn't watch.
Tangled was pretty good. It was okay.
Cars 2, Winnie the Pooh.
Was that some sort of live action thing or something?
I have no idea what that is. No, Christopher Robin was the live action one, which actually wasn't terrible. Brave, I didn't watch Brave. You know what? It didn't feel like a Pixar movie, and you find out later on that John Lasseter was poo-pooing that because he said it's not really a Pixar, not kind of movie we do over.
Yeah,
Pixar.
It definitely comes off more as a Disney type film.
And I think he was right, and unfortunately, he got kicked out not long after that. I think.
Right.
Frankenweenie, great movie.
That's classic.
I remember the Tim Burton short from the 80s, and they used to show it on Disney Channel every so often. The original, Shelley Duvall was in the original short. And I thought, how are they going to make a full feature out of this? And they actually pulled it off, and it makes sense. And the big thing about Frankenweenie, I think, is funny. The kid brings his dog back to life, right? It's like, oh, you made a horrible monster, but he acts just like he did when he was alive. The dog isn't really any different. That's the whole joke about the whole thing, right?
Right.
Everyone's freaking out, but he's still the same dog anyway. But they go other. It's a good little movie. Winona Ryder does a voice in it. Wreck-It Ralph, good movie.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I loved a lot of the little Easter eggs and send ups in that one.
I could be wrong, but I believe I read somewhere that this was originally conceptualized in the early '80s, back in the heyday of video game
Kind of
arcades.
doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And of course, they retooled it for modern times, but I think a lot of the story origins were actually from the early '80s, back in the heyday of the arcades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Monster University, you didn't like that one. Planes, didn't see. Frozen, just you like Frozen, Troy? Please,
Uh
please
I
say
kind
no.
no,
Okay.
there's some things I like
Oh,
about it. I guess I have a particular affinity for it because a local minor celebrity, the Klingon pop warrior, translated "Let It Go" into Klingon, and she actually managed to. She is now in the Disney vaults as one of the official translations of "Let It Go."
interesting. Okay,
Seriously,
well,
she was reached out to by Disney and everything. It was actually pretty cool. So I kind of dig that whole concept. Looked into saw the movie, dug into the folklore behind it. Again, very different from the original folklore, but not in a terrible way, in a very Disney-esque kind of old-fashioned kind of Disney-esque kind of way. So
okay.
kind of liked it.
Planes, Fire and Rescue.
I didn't see any of the
Let's
planes.
move on. These are these weird Pixar. Why do they keep making planes and cars movies? That's what you're probably thinking. They actually make a lot of money, so
Because they sell a lot of
they
toys.
sell
Yeah.
a lot of toys because
They
they're
do.
not Pixar's favorite movies to make, actually, but they make a lot of money. Okay, Big Hero 6.
I
Uh,
like
uh,
it. I
yeah,
like it.
actually, the first time they did an animated movie based off of a Marvel property, that was actually a Marvel
Yep.
story. Inside Out.
Is that the
No.
one with the emotions?
Yeah, I didn't like that one. Did you like it? It's okay if you did. I just did.
I didn't care for the main story. I didn't care for the whole
Yeah.
emotional thing.
Yeah.
I liked the implied B plot, the kid that you were following and whatnot.
Okay.
There was some good story there that I think was overshadowed by all this goofy emotion stuff.
Yeah. Good Dinosaur, didn't see it. Heard that was terrible, though. It
Yeah.
did not do well. Zootopia.
Utopia is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I saw that one. Finding Dory, saw that one's okay.
Yeah.
Um, Moana, still haven't seen that yet, but I've been meaning to
Moana,
watch
I
it.
did like. And,
Okay.
there is a YouTuber I follow, John Solo. He did a write up about a couple of the characters from Moana. He looks at folklore and compares them to Disney, compares them to other interpretations and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff in Moana that, although it's not directly adapting the source material, it very clearly shows they did their research. And there's a lot of little send ups in that song where The Rock is singing "You're Welcome." He references a whole bunch of things that really do come from the Maori uh what do you call it, mythology and whatnot. And I'm like,
Okay, well,
oh,
that's
it's
good.
actually pretty cool. That's
Okay,
pretty
well, I
cool.
need to check it out. Like I said, I do have some of these movies I would get for like another family member, like for Christmas, and I would take the
Yeah.
digital copy. So I do have access to them. I'm going to rather watch it. Incredibles, Wally, and Up, three films from Pixar's peak. Yeah, Inside Out was horrible. I got to tell you, it rubbed me the wrong way too, and I can't figure out what it was about that movie that threw me off.
It was the stupid emotions thing. They didn't nail that.
No, I
And
think that's what it is.
like I
Yeah,
said, there was a lot of heart in the story that
yeah,
was implied about the family, and you
yeah.
don't get enough of that.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. Cars 3 didn't see. Coco
No.
still haven't seen. I
Coco's
think
good.
I have. I
You
heard
would
it was
enjoy it.
good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Incredibles
Incredibles 2 was
2
pretty good too. Yeah.
didn't see it, but it's another one of these ones I have access to. And this is where I start breaking off and not
Yeah.
being familiar with any of these. Ralph Breaks the Internet, still have not
Didn't
seen.
see that.
I
Didn't
didn't.
see
I got annoyed by the whole concept. Wreck-It Ralph is supposed to be about video games. Hint Disney, people like video games. Super Mario Brothers movie, your first Ralph movie was about him beating all the game characters. You should have
right.
stuck with that. I don't know. I don't think they did that in the sequel. It's more about what Tumblr and things like that, internet
Right.
crap, which I no. I mean, maybe if I'm wrong, people sing the praises in the chat. Let me know if it's any good. Toy Story 4, skip that as well.
Yep. No.
I'm
Didn't
like,
see Frozen 2.
I
Didn't
forgot they
see
did a
Onward.
Frozen 2. Onward. Onward. This is this is now the start of Geeky Geezers. This is when we start saying,
Yeah.
oh, it did badly because of the pandemic. No,
And
it
we're
was
like,
doing
BS.
badly
It did
before.
badly because the
No,
families
it was
refused to take their kids
that's
to
what
see it.
how they spun it at the time. They said, "Oh, people were." It was right before the people were scared of the dreaded disease, and I'm thinking people weren't worried about it. This was like 2 weeks later, people started worrying about the disease. This movie did badly
Yeah.
because people didn't want to see it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, they covered that up. Soul, it looked interesting, but I
Didn't see it. I heard good things.
yeah.
Haven't seen it. Haven't seen
Manless Dragon.
Didn't see that. Luca
Luca
was good. Luca was good. Luca was
Okay.
very good.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen
And
it.
I've heard good things about Encanto, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Encanto, Turning Red.
Forget that.
No, that was the one. I think this is where we can start seeing the downward slope. Lightyear.
Story about a girl having her period.
Okay. Strange World. Oh no. And Elemental.
Yeah, basically, if you didn't like Inside Out, you're not gonna like Elemental. It's the same thing. It's just elementals instead of emotions.
Welcome, Leia Rose. Yes, we spent too much time talking about this $1,500
But
Disney set.
Even if I was partly interested in the first few that we talked about, as we go and we start getting into these at the end, it's like now you should be cutting the price in half because I will not pay for these movies. I realized that all the ones that I did like from this list, I already have. So I don't need this at all.
There's something going on with all of those Peter Pan and Pooh movies.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're on here.
It
That's
has
not just
to be
about
related to
love.
those entering the public domain. So
because I don't know why they're on here over something like Mary Poppins or even something like Peach Dragon or Bread Knobs and Broomsticks. I would have been putting that stuff on here. Some of the live action movies,
these are all animated. None of these are like live action.
If they were to do a set of their live action films, like especially back in the day, that might be an interesting set to get. Actually,
they're probably gonna. I see, and I suspect the reason that hasn't been put out because then people are gonna start going, "Oh, really? Where's Song of the South? Huh?
Oh no, I didn't even think about that."
Yeah,
and of course, Freaky Friday on there.
I would love Freaky
with
Friday.
Jodie Foster. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I don't know about all of this. Toy Story 4 and Ralph Breaks the Internet are examples of Disney pushing the male protagonist IQ points off a cliff. Yeah, I don't like that. I think this is really when the turn happened. I heard they did some not such good things to Buzz Lightyear and Toy Story 4. It's like these characters are now regressing and like you make them grow, but then you keep doing sequels, so they have to regress. I think that was the complaint about that. You know what? Let's move on from Disney anyway, but I'm just going to say, if the packaging for this set is just a bunch of cardboard sleeves and a book, and that's going to fall apart in 2 years, I want
think it was
nothing to do
Samuel
with this.
Proctor who brought that up. He's like, I could see these getting scratched up really, really easily, and I have some serious problems with that. It does seem like, and I'm betting you they don't talk about anything about special features or anything. So I bet you they're just taking previously released junk, putting it on Blu-ray or just re-releasing the Blu-rays and dumping them into a generic box is what they're basically doing.
Yeah.
So this is a money grab.
They should have Pixar collection, Disney Classic collection, live action collection. They should have done collections based on periods too. Like,
and I would say, somebody give me a selling point on this. Is there a single Blu-ray in here that was never released before? Something where it would justify, I have to get this because it was never available before and it may never be available on its own somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not buying all cardboard book folder style. No, that's I got a Planet of the Apes. Can I tell you a little story about I'm Mr. Physical Media sometimes, believe it or not, even though you chide me sometimes. I got the Planet of the Apes 5-disc Blu-ray set, right? That came in the fold-out book. I hated this thing. I hated it so much that when they released the Planet of the Apes movies on Blu-ray again, and it just came in like in a little classboard case, I just ended up picking that up and I donated that thing to the library because I'm done. I couldn't deal with it.
I got them all separately and I made my own box set that doesn't have this is what bothered me about the box set. It's got the Statue of Liberty on the front. And it's like, look, I know this
Stop
is
doing that.
I know it's a friggin' 50-year-old freaking series or whatever, but for crying out loud, it's possible that somebody picking this up is seeing it for the first time. Why do the spoiler right
so
on your
stupid
screen, you know?
The original DVD release was like that too. I think on the front of the first case, and then if you put the disc in, there's even like I think you see the Statue of Liberty in the background. Stop it.
Yeah,
it's like putting the Psycho ending on in the beginning of the Psycho DVD. Luckily, the Blu-ray set I got doesn't have any of that, and it has a the cover for the Blu-ray set is actually the original Planet of the Apes poster art, with like the cage and everything. That's much better.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking
Well,
about
let me repost
DC.
it. We're about to go. We're getting into comics here, but
Yes.
we are talking about the dismal state of comics, specifically DC, and what it is like for the creators these days.
Yeah, so let me get into this. Fables. Actually, this is interesting. I'm actually familiar with this comic book series. I read a few of those. So yeah, I remember reading those. A friend of mine had the trade paperback, so he kept loaning to me. So I got pretty far into it.
Sure.
Up until the point that Big BD Wolf and Snow White had some children. I think I got that far in it. But in a shock statement, Bill Willingham, the creator of beloved comic series Fables, has released the franchise into public domain, citing a breakdown in his relationship with DC Comics, who he recently revealed he'd fired during the ongoing publication of Fables' new continuation, The Black Force. Willingham has shared a press release that reveals his reasons and the details of his acrimonious split from DC. Willingham made the announcement via his blog, These Foolish Games. Sorry, give me a second. During his blog, These Foolish Games. Oh, included in the full below. In the statement, Willingham releases Fables into the public domain, alongside properties such as Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, and a recent edition, Winnie the Pooh. While existing comics and games still belong to their respective publishers, fans are theoretically free to create new books using the characters, settings, and events from all Fable stories and tie-ins, including hit Telltale game The Wolf Among Us, soon to receive a sequel in The Wolf Among Us 2. Willingham specifies that his contract with DC makes the ironclad guarantee that he is the sole owner of the intellectual property behind Fables and that it's his to give away to the world. However, he does caution that copyright law is a mess, purposely vague and murky, and no two lawyers, not even those specializing in copyright and trademark law, agree on anything. But yeah, this is a statement, though. As of now, 15 September 2023, the comic book property called Fables, including all related Fables spin-offs and characters, is now in the public domain. What was once wholly owned by Bill Willingham is now owned by everyone for all time. It's done, and as most experts will tell you, once done, it cannot be undone. Takebacks are neither contemplated nor possible. Question: why did you do this? A number of reasons. I've thought this over some time. In no particular order, they are. Practicality. When I first signed my creator-owned publishing contract with DC Comics, the company was run by honest men and women of integrity who, for the most part, interpreted the details of that agreement fairly and above board. When problems inevitably came up, we worked it out like reasonable men and women. Since then, over the span of 20 years or so, those people have left or been fired to be replaced by a revolving door of strangers of no measurable integrity who now choose to interpret every facet of our contract in ways that only benefit DC Comics and its owner companies. At one time, the Fables properties were in good hands, and now, by virtue of attrition and employee replacement, the Fables properties have fallen into bad hands. Since I can't afford to sue DC to force them to live up to the letter and spirit of our long-time agreement, since even winning such a suit would take ridiculous amounts of money out of my pocket, years off my life. I'm 67 years old and don't have the years to spare. I've decided to take a different approach and fight them in a different arena, inspired by the principles of asymmetric warfare. The one thing in our contract that DC lawyers can't contest or reinterpret to their own benefit is that I'm the sole owner of the intellectual property. I can sell it or give it away to whomever I want. I chose to give it away to everyone. If I couldn't prevent Fables from falling into bad hands, at least this is a way I can arrange that it falls into many good hands. Since I truly believe there are still more good people in the world than bad ones, I count it as a form of victory. philosophy. In the past decade or so, my thoughts on how to reform the trademark and copyright laws in this country and others, I suppose, have undergone something of radical transformation. The current laws are a mishmash of unethical backroom deals to keep trademarks and copyrights in the hand of large corporations who can largely afford to buy the outcomes they want. If my template for radical reform of those laws, I would like to, if any IP is owned by its original creator for up to 20 years from the point of first publication, this goes in the public domain for any and all to use. However, at any time before the 20-year span bleeds out, you, the IP owner, can sell it to another person or corporate entity who can have exclusive use for up to the maximum of 10 years. That's it. Then it cannot be resold. It goes in the public domain. So then, at the most, any intellectual property can be kept for exclusive use for up to 30 years and no longer without exception. Of course, if I'm going to believe such radical ideas, what kind of hypocrite would I be if I didn't practice them? Fables has been my baby for about 20 years now. It's time to let it go. This is my first test of this process. If it works, and I see no legal reason why it won't, look for other properties to follow in the future. Since DC or any other corporate entity doesn't actually own the property, they don't get a say in this decision. Okay. I'm going to interrupt a minute here. What do you think so far?
I have strong feelings about intellectual property law. The problem here is I think that this has less to do with intellectual property law than it does what his agreement is with DC Comics. And I'll bet DC Comics has a very different perspective on this.
We'll get to it, but I don't know. I'm liking this guy so far. But
I like what he's saying in spirit. I'm just not sure that it's actually realistic.
And considering I kind of hate DC right now, for a number of reasons. Okay, so what exactly has DC Comics done to provoke this? Too many things to list exhaustively, but here are some highlights. Throughout the years of my business relationship with DC, with Fables and other intellectual properties, DC has always been in violation of their agreements with me. Usually it's in smaller matters like forgetting to seek my opinion on artists for new stories or for covers or formats of new collections and such. In those times when called on it, they automatically said, sorry, we overlooked you again. It just fell through the cracks. They used to say fell through the cracks line so often and so reflexively that I eventually had to bar them from using it ever again. They are often late reporting royalties and often under-report said royalties, forcing me to go after them to pay the rest of what's owed. This is reminding me of the whole Disney thing with paying royalties, I think, to the one author that was making those Aliens books, remember?
Yep. And I would argue that this is more than anything else why you see the movement to independent creators doing their own thing and getting away from these publishers. And yes, of course, you have people calling them ists and phobes and this and that and comic skate and blah, 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 blah. This is the reality, though, folks.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, if I was a creator and a creative, I'd say, screw it. I'm going to make my own stories. I'm going to put them out there myself. I'm going to do what do you call it? Tom
Conkle's doing.
Well, what Tom Conkle's doing with Island in the Stars, but what I was going to say is the Ripaverse, and those independent comics, and failing the ability to make the big bucks on what I'm putting out, screw it. I'll just put it out on YouTube for free and let anyone who wants to enjoy my stories enjoy my damn stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking, too, as an author, you want to be looking, let's be honest here. What do you think Ian Fleming would think of what they're going to do with James Bond these days?
Well, actually, I'd be interested to hear what he has thought about, because he was alive when some of the movies were made. I'd like to know what he thought about some of those movies.
He lived long enough. He was on the set of Goldfinger when it was being made, but I think he died before it came out. Gotcha. I think he thought they were fine. He always envisioned Bond, I think, as it could be a film franchise, though oddly enough, I think his original idea was to write original stories for movies with Bond, not necessarily adapting the books. But I think he liked it, like Connery. Okay, they did witness him saying, though, he said his number one actor for Bond would in the movies would have been Christopher Lee, which I thought was interesting.
I could see that. Yeah, back in the day, I could have seen that.
But instead, Christopher Lee played the man with the golden gun. But it was interesting. That's who Fleming
Scaramanga, right?
Yeah, Scaramanga, yeah. But the point is, though, obviously the people holding the rights to Bond right now, especially the publisher right now, with them censoring the books, and I think maybe authors need to start thinking about this. I understand you have kids, you want to have them taken care of, but at some point, these things aren't even in the family hands anymore. These go to corporations that are just mistreating these properties, and they really should be
Surreality,
in the
we're going to
public
put you
domain.
in timeout, black bisexual Bond.
No, well, apparently, I think Lauren Chen was doing a video about the latest Bond novel, and of course, it was like the Brexit types were the
Go to the naughty
villains in
corner.
it.
Oh, God.
What?
I can't even imagine.
Let me see though. Actually, this goes back to what we're saying for an Aladdin collection of all the animated movies and series. If they wanted to make money, Disney would do that. Disney forgot they even made an Aladdin series at this point. I don't understand them. But
They
yeah, I
do
don't.
seem averse to making money. That's for sure. They should, the mentality should be take everything and release it and make money off of it. I don't care what it is. I don't care what people think of it. I don't care, what the messaging is. Get it out there and let people buy it. And if they buy a lot of it, put more of it out there.
Yeah. I have a question for you though. I think when something is in the public domain.
Yeah.
Now, Sherlock Holmes is fuzzy because I don't know if it's in public domain in England. I don't know, but can anybody make a Sherlock Holmes movie? That's my question. I think they can,
I would
right?
have to dig into it whether the last things published are in public domain now or not. But yes,
Okay.
once they're in public domain, the original the original writings, the original stories, and the characters are free for anybody to use. That's why you see so many movies that involve Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, etc.
So when you have the rights to these characters and they're not owned by anybody and you're making this movie, you have to actually make the movie or TV show or the adaptation. You have to make it good.
Yeah, it's got to be worth seeing. Otherwise,
it's not like you own the only version in town. Okay,
exactly.
Like Warner Brothers is doing their Sherlock Holmes, then BBC does their own Sherlock Holmes. You
So
understand?
keep in mind that when Coppola did
Dracula,
Bram Stoker's Dracula, right? That was his own version, and ironically, it wasn't even very much Stoker's Dracula. It was,
even though he stuck Stoker's name on it, which I thought was funny.
There are some significant differences there, but they stylistically made it very much his Dracula, and that is not related to the Bela Lugosi Universal Dracula.
No.
That is not related to any of the other Draculas that you could see out there. So you do tend to go through your video catalogs and your streaming services and go, oh, here's another Dracula movie. Oh, okay, that sucks. Okay, well, here's another Dracula. Oh, that kind of sucks too.
Yeah.
So you gotta, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it well. But yeah, that's what public domain means. Those characters and your personal spin on it, you could do whatever you want. But then once you've put your personal spin on it, you've said that in your universe, Dracula exists in the 1970s and Van Helsing is still alive because he was imbued with power by the Archangel Michael, and now he's got a daughter named Genevieve Van Helsing. Those are your characters now, and if anyone were to do a sequel in quotes and use those characters, you could go after them.
Yeah, and just like how the author we're mentioning here.
By the way, I wasn't citing any specific. I was just stream of consciousness, and since I've never actually published that, if someone wants to do any of that, I'm not going to say anything about it.
Well, no, now it's copyrighted, right? I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
I don't think that's quite how copyright works. You got to write something for it to be.
But no, my point is that I think we're at the point where we have a number of properties that should have been in the public domain a long time ago, and I think maybe authors and writers need to start thinking about that, because we've now learned after you die as an author, they can go in and they can change your work on you. And
right.
I know money is important. There's dignity in this, but after you're dead, is it important? That's my question. And think about that going forward. because they are going to keep changing things. Like I said, they went after Roald Dahl. They're going after Ian Fleming.
Yeah.
It's just not going to stop. And that's just who we know about. And I think throw things in public domain because they're cheating you anyway. Like over at DC. What is wrong with DC?
I think it's the same thing that's wrong with, Marvel and Disney and so many other entertainment outlets. They have become so suffused with this ESG BS. They've lost sight of business and certainly ethics. Ethics went out the door years ago.
ESG score is greater than profit. Yeah, I don't know.
Although that is, and we've been talking about that in the past couple of weeks. That's changing a lot because I said this 2 years ago. You can only just like Margaret Thatcher said of socialism. You can only you only have so much of other people's money. It eventually runs out. Same thing with ESG. You can only get so far on the ESG credit before you start to go broke. You never make a profit by taking out loans constantly.
Listen to me. I can decide not to. You can get. I don't care what your score is. I can decide not to spend my money on your product.
And that's
the
exactly what
companies are the big ones to lose in all of this more than anybody else. This is the entertainment companies. Entertainment is a luxury. It's not something I need to survive. And frankly, I even told you a minute ago, you want to buy all these old Disney movies. You don't have to buy this $1,500 box set. Go on eBay. I'm telling you, they are cheap.
You can find them for $2-3.
You can find things buy two get one free. People are decluttering. This is the time. If you want to collect physical media and you want to get Blu-rays are pretty indestructible too. It's not like DVDs. A lot of these are in good shape even if they're used, and you can fill up your library. You don't have to get Disney money to own Disney movies. Anyway, I'm sorry. I was going off on a tangent. Let's go to the next one. You can read the rest of his statement here, but we also have Watchmen creator Alan Moore. Apparently,
and he's a freaking loon. I mean, I've known that for a while now, but now I like him even less. He's a.
Now, part of me wonders if this is from an older interview and they just brought this up to go with the Fables creator talking about his thing, but I figured I'd bring it. Okay, so Watchmen creator, it looks like he's also another one wanting the royal. Okay, ask DC to send his film and TV royalties to Black Lives Matter. Recent movies don't stand by their original principles. Alan Moore, the comic book visionary, best known for writing such revered works as Watchmen and V for Vendetta and Batman the Killing Joke, revealed to the Telegraph that he is no longer accepting royalty checks from DC Comics for films and television series. Based on his works, he asked the company to instead reroute these checks to Black Lives Matter. Telegraph asked Moore if reports were true about him taking all the money he makes from TV series and fighting on the writers and other creatives, to which the writer answered, I no longer wish to even be for it to even be shared with them. I don't really feel with recent films that they have stood by what I assumed were their original principles, so I asked DC Comics to send all the money for any future TV series or films to Black Lives Matter. I have a question. Is he screwing other people that worked on these products of money out of this? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, no, what he's actually saying is he's doing the whole Alan Smithy thing. He doesn't want his name associated with the things they're doing with these characters, even though he created these characters.
Yeah, but Moore added that he is not interested in money and lives a quiet life in Northampton, England. He has been vocal in the past about not agreeing with adaptations of his work, and he's highly critical of contemporary superhero movies, which he once called a blight to cinema and also to culture to agree. He said in October 2022 in an interview with The Guardian that adults' continued love of superhero movies is an infantilization that can act as a precursor to fascism.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Okay, so this is just the loom, but this was circulating around the same time, so I figured I'd bring this up. And I feel that organization he's sending the money to has already been discredited.
Yeah, it doesn't represent what he thinks it represents, and he's just demonstrating himself to be a dumbass.
It's an arm of another anti-fascist organization.
Yeah,
people didn't realize it was in the beginning. That's what it is. Okay, but
so that therein lies the irony, because he's speaking against fascism, and he thinks that that superhero films and people's love of them leads to fascism. Well, what do you think Black Lives Matter is, dumbass? Look,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. He's written some great stories. He really has.
He really hates superhero comics, though. Look at this. It's like they're innocent, inventive, imaginative superhero characters from the 40s, 50s, 60s are being recycled to modern audiences. They were adult fare. I don't know what that means, but
see, the problem is that he's a hypocrite. He really is. He writes good stories, whether he writes good children's stories, he writes good adult stories using the superhero characters, which you could argue are for children or whatnot. He understands that you can tell good stories using mythological characters, fairy tale characters, superhero characters, right? He's done all of those things, right? So to then throw that aside, forget all of that, and say, you're infantilizing when you're fans of these things. Dude, shut up. You're discrediting your own artwork.
Alan Moore is getting tiring. Richard Meyer, 2023.
Kind of true. I don't even know who Richard Meyer is, but
I'm going to look him up now because I want to know who he is. It sounds like somebody important.
But it doesn't matter who said it. I get so upset with the ad hominems I see online when I quote somebody and they're like, well, look who said it. Doesn't matter who said it. Doesn't change the truth of it. When Hitler said the sky was blue, it didn't make it any less true because Hitler said it.
Oh, Richard Meyer, he's a boy, Zach. I got you. Okay.
Okay,
Diversity in comics. Okay. Yeah, those of you who know about the Comicscape movement, he was, I think in some ways it's kind of sprang from him, actually, now I think about it. When they went to that publisher to get his comic book kicked out, remember? Because they said, if you hate the comics so much, why don't you write one? Then he wrote one, and he was going to get it published, and I think someone over at Marvel called somebody over at whatever this independent publisher was, and got him to cancel his comics. So
and
that's when the whole Indiegogo thing started.
And that is what all this is. And I see it very clearly with this Rippaverse stuff.
Yeah,
these are gatekeepers. These are people in the machine of the publishing companies that don't want independence taking their power away. And the fact is that people like Eric July, that's his name. I was having a hard time remembering his name. People like Eric July, in 2 days, get pledged over $1 million. And look, he's putting out the equivalent of a 12-issue graphic novel every year. So he's putting out the same thing that he'd be putting out if he was doing a monthly with the big companies. He's just skipping over the monthly and going straight to the trade. And the trade is coming out every year. And it's not like so many others when you, and I've just turned this into a commercial for Eric July. But anyway, he puts it out. He's already done with it. He just wants to know how many he needs to print. And, he has it up for a couple weeks. People, pay for it in advance. And then boom, he ships them. And a month later, you got your comic.
There you go. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So what it comes down to is that's fine. That's fine if he wants to have this opinion. But I think even to the extent that I agree with these creatives that are upset with DC Comics or whatever publishing company, I can appreciate your problems with them, but now either shut up or start putting out your own stuff independently. You are in a toxic relationship with these publishing companies. Get out of it. That sounds like the first article. That's exactly what they're doing. And it sounds like what Alan Moore is trying to do. But all he's doing is pissing off anybody who might ever want to buy anything from him. Yeah. No one's ever going to buy his stuff again because I don't think he's doing any stuff anymore, so.
It was Mark Waid who interfered with that. His comic book coming out, the Richard Meyer.
Yeah.
Okay. But time to move on.
Should we turn our focus to gaming?
Yes. Oh,
So it
and good
looks
night,
like,
good night, Horizon Talker.
oh,
Thank you for
take
stopping
care,
by.
Horizon Talker. Thanks for
Okay.
hanging out with us.
So go on with the next one. Let's see what's
So
the next
looks
article.
like Dark Forces remaster announced for PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch.
You excited?
More so than I have been for a lot of things recently. Yeah.
Night Dive Studios, who recently remastered classic first-person games System Shock and Quake 2, remember I talked about Quake 2 a few weeks back,
Yep.
is doing the same for another first-person legend, Star Wars Dark Forces. It is in development for all major platforms, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Watch the announcement trailer above. The single-player only Star Wars first-person shooter, released in 1995 for PC. It was the first adventures for players as Kyle Katarn,
Kyle
who would
Katarn, right.
who would go on to become a Jedi in Jedi Knight and its sequels. You don't ever get your hands on a lightsaber in Dark Forces, but it's remembered fondly for its memorable missions and difficult boss fights. I think the audience will appreciate the degree of challenge Night Dive's Larry Cooperman told IGN. The remaster cleans up the 28-year-old Dark Forces gameplay and cutscenes similar to how Night Dive approached the recent Quake 2 remaster with its in-house Kex engine, thus allowing modern controls and features like 4K resolution, widescreen support. The original was the old 4:3 ratio with 1024 times 768 resolution and 60 frames per second. What we really want to do is bring back the way you felt when you played the original, Cooperman said. That's our mission, he added. Our mantra is always about preservation, and you don't preserve things by changing them. It'll be interesting to see how it compares with the recent 4K fan-made remaster. So, of course, fans also worked on their own remaster over the years. That happens with games too.
And I kind of feel like their acknowledgement of that means that they've got to be aware of it, which
I
means
think they're aware of it. I think these guys are fans. That's why they're doing these remasters themselves too.
so there
Yeah,
is probably some pressure on them to live up to that. And
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing. That's a great example of where the fan community has an influence on these kinds of things.
They've done great work so far. They remind me of M2. That's a Japanese studio that would remaster a lot of old Genesis games and things and try to get them up to par when you're playing them, like either on a mini console or on Switch Online. It looks like this is an American team that's looking at a lot of these old PC games and trying to get them, running as best they can on modern hardware.
Right.
Cooperman also told IGN that Dark Forces Remaster will be properly priced, which he suggested would mean somewhere between $20 and $20 and $30. While Dark Forces was the first Star Wars first-person shooter, the latest Star Wars first-person shooter, of which is known, though it's unlikely to have any connection with Dark Forces, is Dark Forces Jedi Knight, came before the canon reset when Disney took over the franchise.
Yeah.
Is in development at Respawn Entertainment, makers of the excellent Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and outstanding Star Wars Jedi Survivor. If you say so.
So one of the things that they're referencing here is that the very actually well received, probably the most well received Disney Star Wars was the film Rogue One, and that very much retconned or eliminated the canon of Kyle Katarn and his
because he's the one that gets the Death Star plans in the first level, right?
Exactly.
Is it so? It's just a graphics remaster or remake from the ground up. Here's what it looks like to me. A lot of these remasters that I played, like the Quake remaster and Doom 64, they do keep the original aesthetic, so they're not going to get rid of, like, completely paint over everything. But, like, for instance, the cutscenes are being redone. Part of me thinks they're using the original artwork. It's just cleaner now because you can actually see it full on.
Mm-hmm.
They might be adding new cutscenes, but I think they try to keep it to the spirit of the original game. As for the game itself, I don't know, but it looks like it's going to have the look of the original game. So it may just be that it's up-resed or it's. Now I'm starting to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. The point is, it's going to look like the original game. It's going to be true to the spirit of the original game, and I don't think they're going to. I'll put it to you this way: when they remastered Quake, it looks very spiffy. They're all new lighting effects and things in there, but you can actually go into the menu system and make it look like it would on the old PC, back in the day. So you can fool around with the settings. I know they're making a version of Rise of the Triad is coming out soon for consoles. Rise of the Triad. Is that ring a
I
bell
don't
to you?
think so, no.
Okay. It was supposed to be like the third Wolfenstein 3D game, but they didn't have the rights. But then they just released it as Rise of the Triad, and it came out the same time as Doom, the original Doom game. But
Okay.
but yeah, if you're worried if it's going to look different, it's going to keep to the aesthetic of the original. You can watch the trailer yourself, you'll see. So it looks like some things they're cleaning up, some things they're keeping the same, but making it look as good. It's hard to say. It'll look good, but it'll feel like the game as well that you grew up with. That makes sense.
No, yeah.
Same voice acting. What did you think of the trailer?
I thought it looked great. I'm kind of interested now.
Did you ever play it back in the day, or were you aware of it?
I wasn't like super, avid, but yeah, I did play it a bit. Mm-hmm.
So my first reaction was, this is just Doom, but with Star Wars, with Stormtroopers.
Kinda. That's how I felt when I played it back then.
And then someone would say to me, well, what's wrong with that?
In fact, I even remember playing some like Doom with like patch, custom patches where you instead of having bullets, you'd fire laser blasts and the monsters would look like stormtroopers and stuff. And then when this came out, I was like, see, they
Samuel Proctor, yeah, that Quake redo you described makes me think of a more recent Halo Combat Evolve redo where you can switch between the original and new with just a button. That's not what this is going to be, because I think they are sticking to the look of the game. And how can I put this? I think it's going to be the original graphics just made as good as they can look, because that's what I think they're doing here. However, I have seen that done before. Like the recent Metroid Prime remaster was completely redone graphically. And this brings us to our next article.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
We can still talk about Dark Forces, but actually, yeah, anything I'd love to say about Dark Forces, though. Sorry. You going to get this, maybe? You thinking about it?
Yep. I didn't realize you were ready to pivot that quickly.
I'm not ready to pivot yet. I don't know. I just thought it matches what we're doing because he was talking.
Yeah, no, because you're right. This is another example of a
all right
re-release that's getting a little bit of a remaster.
This is an odd one. Okay, launching on this is the original Tomb Raider trilogy is getting remastered for Switch. It's not just getting remastered for Switch, by the way. PlayStation 4, Xbox consoles, PlayStation 5, and PC. It's also coming out on those as well. Launching on February 14th, 2024, Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered starring Lara Croft will contain the original 3 Tomb Raider game titles from 1995, 1997, 1998, respectively. The visuals have been boosted significantly for this new release, but you can toggle between the vintage polygonal style and the new graphics at will. Not only that, but the games will also include all the expansions and secret levels. So this is as complete a package as you can hope for. Well, if you exclude Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation and Tomb Raider Chronicles, that is. Here is some info from Crystal Dynamics. Uncover treasures and mysteries of the ancient world alongside Lara Croft and 3 classic Tomb Raider adventures, now remastered and featuring each game's expansion content. Face off against deadly foes, reveal dangerous myths, and solve puzzles with upgraded graphics and the option to switch between the original polygonal look at the time. Tomb Raider 1 3 Remastered starring Lara Croft is available for pre-order later today and launches digitally on Nintendo eShop and in the My Nintendo store on Nintendo.com on February 14th, 2024, just in time to celebrate Lara Croft's birthday. I'm assuming the other versions will release around the same time as well. I know mention if there's going to be a physical release, but there probably will be some kind of physical release at some point. Back when Lara Croft was a fun-loving adventurer and not whatever the modern remakes were going for. And I'll say this, it looks like these remasters are going to stay faithful to the original games. One, you can play them with the original graphics, or you can play a, what do you want to call it? Like a remastered look?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't look so complex, it looks kind of simple, but it looks like an HD version, like if they were making the same type of game with. The point where everybody was trying to make is, though, it's going to keep the original controls, or you could use modern controls, but you can actually play it PlayStation style. If you remember, the original PlayStation did not come with analog sticks. You had to control this 3D character in a 3D environment with a digital D-pad, so that was a little tricky back in the day, but I think they'll allow you to play it that way. So yeah, these are the 2 big remasters. I think it's interesting that we're getting a lot of remasters from the mid to late 90s now. Have you noticed this? It's becoming a trend.
Well, yeah, because we're hitting that sweet spot where the nostalgia for those kinds of games would definitely, and let's face it, we're not getting a whole lot of great new games, so
Yeah, we'll pivot to that in a minute, but I don't know. It's I kind of wish Capcom would take the original Resident Evil trilogy and just do a remaster. They've done remakes,
yeah,
and the remakes are good, but I kind of like those original games. They had a different feel, and
right.
they weren't remakes. Because the remakes actually go in places the originals didn't go. So it's one way of doing things, and I don't know. I hope more companies do this. But yeah, so you think of getting Dark Forces? Maybe
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
they'll be on Steam, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay, but it's got Mon Mothma in it, right?
I honestly don't remember.
She
I
was
wouldn't
in the
be surprised.
cutscene. She was in the
Kind of makes
cutscene.
sense, yeah. Kind of makes sense.
And apparently, there's some new stormtroopers. Some guys working on out there, like droid stormtroopers, and you have to stop them from being produced or something. I don't know.
Right, which in the sequel, leads to, and then of course some of that was canonized in The Mandalorian. So the Dark Troopers.
Samuel Proctor says, I don't know. I don't think movies have taken a nosedive like movies and comics have. I don't think so either. There are other problems, though. We're going to get into that in a minute here with this article. Now, I'm not even saying the opinions of this columnist do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Agent Boomer or Troy Pacelli here. But 2023 has been a horrible year for gaming, but there's some interesting points brought up in this. I'm sure
Yeah.
this person covers other things that I would completely disagree with, but 2023 is one of the strongest years in history for video game releases, but behind the scenes, things have gone from bad to worse. 2023 has been a great year for video games. Yeah, I know. Forget the headline for a second. All right. I'm going somewhere with this. Just 3 months after The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom launched to one of the highest Metacritic review scores of all time, that was a big hit, the latest Zelda. Baldur's Gate 3 beat it by a point. Yeah, Baldur's Gate was a big success, Troy, the one with the bear sex, just so you know.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's actually, despite all that, it's a game.
And apparently
people
some
like playing.
goblin nudity too.
Yeah, the trouble is, I think the game mechanics, like, it's actually a very good RPG. It doesn't have all the microtransactions, all the other nonsense. It just has nonsense I don't care for.
It
But
just has nonsense.
I guess that's the modern D&D crowd's flavor of
Yeah,
the day, though.
apparently
Okay.
so.
We've had a remake of one of the best horror games ever made, Resident Evil 4, which somehow managed to improve on the original. I have not played it, but people seem to like it. Mr. Matchstick did, at least. We're in the midst of enjoying Starfield. We're still We're still full from Street Fighter, Metroid Prime, Sea of Stars, Final Fantasy, Armored Core, and Dead Space. We have Spider-Man, Super Mario. I guess she's talking about Super Mario Odyssey, Mortal Kombat, and Assassin's Creed still to come. We're so sick of good games, we've decided Diablo 4 is terrible. It's been a good year for video games, a great year. A challenger to the likes of 2020, 2013, and 1998 is the best year ever. But it's been a bad year for gaming. When we say this year has been great, we specifically mean that good games have launched. The list above speaks for itself, and that's before you get into the lesser noted but incredibly special indie experiences like A Space for the Unbound, Paranormal Sight, and Goodbye Volcano High. I've not heard of any of those. But gaming is not just about what games happen to come out in the arbitrary 12-month period, and so far this year has been absolutely devastating. Baldur's Gate 3 is the highest reviewed game of the year. It's great primarily because Larian was allowed to take its time to perfect every inch of the game, including rolling into a long and comfortable early access period in the week it launched to critical acclaim and Steam numbers that were inches away from record-breaking. BioWare announced mass layoffs. All departments of BioWare were impacted by this, with senior writers and creators of iconic fan favorites turfed out unceremoniously. It's highlighted that Baldur's Gate, for all its greatness, was the exception to the rule. The previous two games in the series have been developed by BioWare. One of those laid off wrote the original Baldur's Gate, And it's upon BioWare's once pioneering choices matter, character-driven storytelling that Larian built the third entry on. Elsewhere, Microsoft and Sony had been engaged in a constant slugfest in which both companies say one thing in public, another private, and this foundation-shifting acquisition of Activision Blizzard is not being threatened in court because it harms workers who have fewer employment options post-layoffs, or as a Fortune Common Gaming after harassment settlements, nor because huge conglomerates tend to kill off smaller creative studios in favor of throwing more bodies into the meat grinder. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro the Dragon. I assume this author is talking about how the company that made those games was shoved into Blizzard to work on Diablo 4, because they redid Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro the Dragon. They did remasters of those original games with new graphics and everything. Kind of, again, what we were talking about earlier with what they're doing with these were other '90s classics that were given the royal treatment. They received acclaim, and for the studio's studio's hard work, they got shoved into Blizzard to work on, I guess, more the moneymakers like Diablo, instead of being able to work on this stuff. So no one said Sony is attempting to stop the acquisition because it considers Call of Duty so crucial to the fabric of gaming that Sony cannot thrive without it. We have reduced the most important employee welfare issue of our time is down to a fight over who gets a profit from one army game. In the midst of all of this, over 1,000 staff at Microsoft were laid off, with 343. And Bethesda, the hardest hit. Sega also cut 121 employees due to external factors soon after buying, and most immediately killing to revive it, gross microtransactional stuck Phoenix. All right. Angry Birds developer Rovio for $775 million. Oh, that's right. We reported on that, right? They were buying Angry Birds. So. In fact, Kotaku notes that between Unity and EA, 1,600 employees have been laid off, while Firaxis, Take-Two, CD Projekt Red, Riot, and Fazi Clan have also cut their rosters. Embracer, having failed to bear instant fruits from its acquisition-heavy strategy, is now cutting its losses, despite the economy being relatively stable and sales of video games as all increasing. Companies keep making cuts. Let's see. And in a way, it's an inevitable endpoint. Gaming might point to higher profits than movies, television, and music, but they also have a much longer development cycle between Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 6. If we take the optimistic view, what it will take to launch next year, there have been 8 Taylor Swift albums and 15 Marvel movies in the time it took Rockstar to make one game. Rockstar has the benefit of, well, being Rockstar. Grand Theft Auto 6 will be a big hit and make its money back with both a bumper launch and huge profits over time through Grand Theft Auto Online. Other studios are increasingly copying this model of long development cycles, focus on premium experiences and hyperrealism, but they're not making Rockstar money on the back end. And that's just a studio level. That's before you get on the layoffs we've seen in games journalism and the cancellation, often and likely permanent fall of E3. E3 was the Electronics Entertainment Expo. As for the journalists, part of me says, what's taking it so long? But I'm being mean. Okay, let's see. A robust press that doesn't act as an extension of PR is more crucial than ever if you see layoffs and tougher working conditions, and it's increasingly disappearing. Meanwhile, E3 was once a tentpole event of the year, a core representative of what gaming was, but these days, with longer development cycles, corporate penny pinching on both sides, and studios keen to control the narrative with their own shows, E3 was deemed surplus of the requirements, replaced by the more commercially minded Summer Game Fest. We've had some great games this year, and we should celebrate them. I hope we look back on this year, especially with so many big titles still to come out, and think of it as an all-timer. But more than that, I hope we don't look back on it as a cornerstone of gaming's descent. I enjoyed 2023's games, but I'm still worried about where we're headed. Do you think this is a canary in the coal mine?
I have no idea. Okay. I do. The one thing that kind of stood out to me, as again, somebody that doesn't know games as well as you do, is they said something about innovation. And I can kind of sympathize with that, because what makes one game different from another? You know, we were kind of joking about Doom versus Dark Forces, but they're basically the same concept, same engine, same whatever. And there is this push. You have to innovate. It's got to be different enough. Otherwise, why should I stop playing this game that I'm already playing?
I guess. I mean, people have been playing Grand Theft Auto 5 for years. That's why they said it's. I mean,
that is a good point too. Yeah.
I don't think the video games would take it. Okay. Agent Boomer, do you mean? Oh, okay. I got to read this comment. Do you mean the original remake of Resident Evil 1? That was basically an up-res remastered Resident Evil 1 as opposed to the other remakes. I see from your point of view how it looks that way, because a lot of the rooms were the same, though I think they expanded upon it and the graphics were completely. But for me at the time, that was a complete remake. I was very familiar with the PlayStation original. This game had zombies doing like tiger uppercuts on you. Well, that's an exaggeration, but the mechanics were different. I see what you're saying, but that one felt different enough that I consider it its own game, not just a game that had up-res graphics. I think they added enough to it, but I don't know. I can see where you might have seen it as just the same game with better graphics. I'm patiently waiting for October. I shall be fighting Venom. Yes, the new Spider-Man game is coming out. I don't know. This article was being touted by a lot of the different sites, though. I don't really care about the loss of the games journalists because, frankly, they've been biased, whether they're being paid off by the company making the game or they have a political angle. I mean, that's been another thing that's been going on. Hogwarts Legacy. No mention of Hogwarts Legacy in that article, too. That's a little suspicious because that was a big hit. Metroid Prime, legendary. Good year for games, but bad for the industry. I think what she's saying is that bad things are coming. I have a bad feeling about what Microsoft is trying to do. I don't quite know what it is. I think they are trying for a games as service model. It's not ready yet, but maybe in 10 years, I don't know. They're going to really be pushing that. I don't know. That's why I'm disenfranchised with improperly set up app stores. I don't know. Okay. I've got nothing. You there?
Yeah.
Okay. Why does everybody obsess over Call of Duty? Is this still the most popular online game?
I don't know. I mean, I played the original Call of Duty. I don't know about any of the sequels, but it was good.
That really freaked out Sony, but I don't know. Okay. Let's go to the MISC section.
Well, do you want to
Yeah.
skip over that first one, move that to the end for the
Why don't we do
bookmarking?
that? Yeah, why don't we do that?
So let's get to some anime news here.
What anime news?
Well,
Boy in the Heron. No, not the not the other news I read where something was being censored, but maybe that'll be a story for next week.
Okay.
Okay. Boy pursues late mother in Hayao Miyazaki's animated The Boy in the Heron trailer. That's a weird headline.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what he was getting at with that.
All right, so here we go. But animation specialty distributor G-Kids set to release. Okay, Studio Ghibli released Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron with visual beauty and deep philosophical message, but no trailers or marketing for its commercial success in Japan. But animation studio specialty distributor G-Kids, set to release the Japanese anime legend's last film in North America on December 8th, has rolled out a traditional marketing campaign ahead of the animated feature opening the Toronto Film Festival on Thursday. We did talk about this last week, and I was complaining, why are they having no trailers out here in North America? Well, it turns out they are. So I stand corrected. They originally said they were following the same campaign, though. I remember reporting on that, or at least reading someone else report on that was either false, or maybe they changed their minds, realizing that was a little cray-cray.
Yeah.
You want to release trailers. The trailer doesn't spoil anything. It just shows you some brief glimpses of what the movie is
about. If it's done well, it doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After releasing an English language pre-teaser, G-Kids unveiled the official teaser trailer for the film, which centers on a young boy named Mahito who enters a world shared by the living and the dead. There, death comes to an end and life finds a new beginning. The trailer describes a musical score by Miyazaki's longtime collaborator Joe Hisaishi plays. After his mother's death, Mahito is told by a talking heron that his mother is still alive, so he goes in search of her, taking him to another and more magical world The trailer also alludes to the epic and beautiful anime imagery to the firebombing of Tokyo during the Second World War, which claimed his mother's life, and Mahito having to go live with his maternal aunt. Released in Japan as Kimitacha wa do Arukyo, translated How Do You Live? The film is an original story written and directed by Miyazaki and is produced by the Oscar-winning Studio Ghibli co-founder Toshio Suzuki. The official international title is The Boy and the Heron. For the release in Japan, Studio Ghibli chose not to release a plot summary, voice cast trailers, art, or description to allow audiences to watch the movie without any preconceptions. Ahead of the international premiere in Toronto, the animated feature touted the Japanese last film at Studio Ghibli is described in the trailer as a semi-autobiographical fantasy about life, death, and creation and tribute to friendship from the mind of Hayao Miyazaki. Many Japanese reviewers have noted that Miyazaki's own family escaped the bombing of Tokyo for the Japanese countryside and that his father worked during the war as an engineer in a fighter plane factory, just like Mahiko's. Miyazaki also has spoken over the years about how an especially close relationship with his mother shaped him as a person and helped to inspire the strong female protagonists that recur across his movies. Yeah, it's interesting they're dealing with the firebombing in Japan in this movie. Another Studio Ghibli movie made by another founder of the studio, Isao Takahata, was Grave of the Fireflies. That also involved the firebombing of Japan. So it's interesting they're kind of doing an echo of that in this. So okay, but it makes sense for them to release a trailer. I'm sorry, the cat's out of the bag. It's been released in Japan. You can probably read a summary of the entire movie on Wikipedia at this point.
Yep.
So releasing a little bit of marketing, and I don't think the trailer spoils too much about the movie. It's just little glimpses of the mysterious. It reminds me a little bit of Spirited Away and some of the weirdness in that trailer, but should be interesting. I don't know. Comes out December 8th. We'll have a nationwide release. I think it's going to be in theaters. You can actually just go to your local theater and see it. No word on who the voice dub cast is for this, for the English dub. I'm assuming it's being released in English. Maybe they'll do English and Japanese, depending on the showing. I don't know. But traditionally, these movies have been released in English over here. They usually get top talent to do the voice acting in these movies, actually. But
will you be seeing it opening week?
I will definitely be seeing it in December. I don't know, maybe, perhaps opening week. If I'm not busy, yes, I'll try. I've always tried to see his movies on the big screen. I saw Princess Mononoke on the big screen. I saw Spirited Away. Drove to Orlando to see Spirited Away when it came out because it wasn't playing locally. That was a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
That's how obsessed I was, and it was worth it.
Well, I was going to say, for something like that, then you make an event out of it. You drive up,
Yes.
you have dinner, whatever.
That's what happened. Downtown Disney was playing it in their theater, so I drove to Downtown Disney, and
there you go.
It was a great time. It did finally get a regular theatrical release when it was nominated and won Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards, which was the only time something like that would happen for anything that wasn't Disney. I felt like, but
wow, yeah.
And it was a nice experience, and I have enjoyed these movies ever since. That's when John Lasseter too. He was in charge of a lot of the dubbing for these movies because he was working at Pixar. I'm not sure who's doing the dubbing now, but I think even other G Kids they tend to get top talent. Actually, it was funny though. They had Daisy Ridley do one of the voices in one of the later releases that was under G Kids, which I thought was kind of funny because now she's like a Disney mainstay, but
right
before then. But yeah, like Billy Crystal wasn't one of them. He played the voice of Calcifer, a fire demon. In one of
interesting,
them, which was kind of funny. But no, this is gonna be, in my opinion, the holiday movie I'm looking forward to, especially with unfortunately Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel being pushed back. So I'm looking forward to this. So I will see this on the big screen. This could have a splash over here. You never know. He's had enough. I'll be curious to see how this does, especially if it's getting a normal release. I want to see how it's going to do at American box office.
Yep.
We'll see, because he's a name now. People know who he is, so we'll see how it does at the box office. So I'm just curious. Anybody else interesting? Is the only anime that I can manage to enjoy. He's a different style. I would also recommend trying out some of the other Ghibli directors. Sans his son, avoid his son's movies, but the other people that work there, I would like. Isao Takahata's movies are pretty good too. But yeah, well, the thing about Miyazaki is he really is in some ways. I don't like to say he's like the Walt Disney of Japan because he's his own person,
Right.
but kind of like how Disney movies have their flavor, Pixar movies have their flavor, Ghibli movies have their own flavor too, and a lot of them are movies that can be enjoyed by the whole family. Sometimes they get into more adult subject matter, like one was about the man that designed airplanes in World War II for the Japanese Army. So it was like a World War II movie. It was like a biopic of the man.
Wow.
Liberties were probably taken, but so I don't know if you'll like that or not. But it was interesting because it goes through what Japan went through up to leading to World War II. They had their own Great Depression over there.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
hit them differently. I think it hit them at a different time. They had a nasty tsunami followed by an earthquake, I think, that did a
That's
lot
not
of damage to the
surprising.
country.
Yeah.
So they were hurting. The movie doesn't make an apology for Japan's actions because it's funny. There's a scene where the engineer befriends a German man visiting Japan, and they're hanging out, and then the German fan says, you're like us. Japan invades Manchuria. Japan does all this stuff, and people you forget about it. It's nothing. It says no. There's going to be repercussions someday.
Yeah.
And I think he was also explaining the same thing for Germany. So,
Yep.
and it's an interesting thing, but good movie. I didn't expect to get another movie from Hayao Miyazaki before this. Before he passed on, they said his last one was The Wind Rises. Wind Rises almost moved me to tears by the end of the movie. So we'll see what this one does. But
Yeah.
reminder to hit that like button. And I don't know if you're familiar with Studio Ghibli films, deleted scenes, but I would highly recommend you check them out. If any of you are subscribed to Max, I pick on Warner Brothers, but I think Max does have all the Studio Ghibli movies on their streaming. So, and you can also buy them too and rent them. But I did want to mention something though. Agent Boomer, I see what you mean. They did. Oh, this is from Resident Evil. They did change certain events, like the jump scare with the dogs, Crimson Heads, Lisa Trevor. Although the gameplay wise similar to the original, you're right in that respect. It was so. It's almost like a half remake. That's how I would call it for Resident Evil. Okay, I'm rambling. What next? John Wick 5. Are
Yeah, I did find this a little bit interesting.
you
John Wick
caught up?
5,
Yes.
huh? Yeah,
Are you caught up
go.
on John Wick yet?
I am not.
Okay,
No.
I won't spoil it for you
We've
then.
still only
Okay.
seen the first one, but
Okay.
John Wick 5 won't be made without Keanu Reeves. Lionsgate confirms. Well,
Okay,
that's
no,
nice to know.
no one in the chat spoil John Wick series for Troy here. He's still catching up. All right. Lionsgate
How
signs.
many more dogs is he going to go through before John Wick 5? That's all I
I don't
want.
remember.
Okay.
I finally watched John Wick 4 a few weeks back. I thought it was a satisfying conclusion to the series, but maybe it's open for a part 5. We'll see. Lionsgate signs Keanu Reeves to star in John Wick 5 next chapter of the famous saga. The company itself confirms. What? Okay, so there is going to be a John Wick 5, and I'm like, I thought they ended it. So I will not what? Be watching John Wick 5?
No, he
Okay.
probably
Oh, he
is
will not
saying
be
will
okay,
not ruin
spoiling.
it for me. Oh, he
Have
hasn't
not
seen
seen.
John Wick 4, so
I'm
yeah.
not going to spoil that one
Jesse
for
has.
you either. I was satisfied by it. I thought it was a good, what I thought would be the conclusion to the story, but the director said it's always open if he wanted to come back. It is official that Lionsgate has hired Keanu Reeves again to film the fifth chapter of John Wick, the famous saga in which he is the main character. According to CNN, Lionsgate Motion Picture Group President Joe Drake said this when talking about the continuation of a successful franchise. We're not ready to say goodbye to Keanu with this franchise. Other participants in the decision-making process also spoke on this issue. Producer Basil Awaniak, for example, said if he has a coherent way to return that doesn't feel like crap, then John Wick 5 will be it. And John Wick 4 director Chad Stahelski said on a Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, if you ask Keanu right now, would you make John Wick 5? He would answer, of course, yes. Also, as it became known, Stahelski, who has not yet ruled out the possibility of returning to directing, and Reeves will travel to Japan to talk about the fifth chapter of the saga. If all goes well, Stahelski and Lionsgate will begin preparations for the project, such as deciding what sets to use and what characters they would like to see in the world of John Wick. Producer Wanik said this about the meeting between Reeves and Stahelski. Traveling to Japan is a bit like waiting for a boat to appear out of the fog. This is the intention. What? Okay. Anyway. So also spin-offs are coming out. One of them is Ballerina, in which Anna de Armas plays Rooney. The film will focus on Rooney's search for the people who killed her family. The producer has already revealed that the characters who will appear in Ballerina, Keanu Reeves will play an important role in the film, which is expected to release in June 2024. Another spinoff will be the crime drama miniseries Continental, which is scheduled to premiere on September 22nd this year on Prime Video. Continental looks like a prequel series about the hotel.
Yeah, that makes
It
sense.
looks like it takes place in the 1970s. So it's about that organization, but what they were doing in the 70s. So you might be able to watch that without prior knowledge of John Wick by
That sounds
itself. I
cool.
don't know. Yeah. So as for this ballerina movie, Anna de Armas is good in anything. So I will watch this movie. She hasn't been in any of the John Wick movies that I remember. So it's interesting. I forgot Anna de Armas worked with Keanu Reeves in movies before, though. She was in that movie Knock Knock, which was an Eli Roth movie. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay. I won't say anything more about it. It's Keanu Reeves gets tormented by two very hot women in that movie. That's basically what the plot is.
Sounds good to me.
I haven't piqued your interest. Okay. I'm just saying you feel bad for the Keanu Reeves character in the movie, but I think Ross should have kept the alternate ending on there. I thought the alternate ending was better than what we got, but okay. Okay, so keep an eye out for more John Wick stuff. Let's go to Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, I
Who
found
feels
this
like
one.
he should be in a John Wick movie.
Yeah.
Was it Apple TV? Article said it was Amazon. I saw an ad somewhere for it, but I thought they ended at probably one of the most common phrases of the 2010s and 2020s. I think what it was, the guy that created the series had an idea for where he would go with it over a 4-movie series, but he was open to bringing the character back. I think that's what he said. That's why the last one feels like kind of the last chapter, but it could always, start a new series. We'll see. Mads Mikkelsen shuts down reporter who questions lack of diversity in new film at Venice premiere. Okay, Mads Mikkelsen was less than impressed with a question about the lack of diversity in his upcoming film. The Promised Land could affect the Best Picture chances at the Oscars. The actor, accompanied by the movie's director, Nikolaj Arcel, was asked to weigh in on the Academy's new diversity and inclusion regulations by an unnamed reporter during the recent Q&A session at the Venice Film Festival. These new standards, set to go into effect in 2024, require that a project meet 2 out of its 4 criteria, which focus on screen representation, the creative leadership and project team, industry access and opportunities, and audience development, in order to be eligible for the Oscars Best Picture category. This is a cast and Danish production that's entirely Nordic and therefore has some lack of diversity, you would say, the reporter asked the pair, referring to the Promised Land. There's also new rules implied in Hollywood. What are you on to? Mikkelsen interjected, laughing and shaking his head. From the get-go. From the get-go, the reporter acknowledged, there are some rules of diversity across the Atlantic for competing in the Best Picture category, the equivalent of this competition. As I see, you don't live up to these standards with this cast. I'm just curious. It's not because of artistic reasons. It's because of lack of diversity that this can't compete in that competition. Are you worried about it? Are you? Mikkelsen instantly fired back. I'm serious and honest because you're putting us on the spot, so you answer the question. The reporter called the standards a conundrum and seemed to try to explain that under the new rules, even Bong Joon-ho's film Parasite, which won award for Best Picture in 2020, would not be eligible for the category in the future because that had an all-Korean cast in it, I'm sure. Arcel then cut in to note that The Promised Land does feature a character of color. Well, first of all, the film takes place in Denmark in the 1750s, the director said. We do have a big plot line about a girl of color being subjected to racism, which was very rare. Any people of color in Denmark, almost nobody. She was probably at the time the only one in the entire country of Denmark. Still, Arcel admitted that wasn't a thought in our mind. I think it would be a little weird, he continued. It's just historical how it was in the 1750s. So, yeah. So anyway, Mikkelsen stars as Ludwig von Kallen in the historical drama, a soldier who arrives in 1755 in the barren Jutland Heath with a single goal to follow the king's call to cultivate the land and thereby achieve wealth and honor himself, per its IMDb description. A whole host of things with this. One, it's the assumption by the interviewer that this movie isn't diverse, and he obviously didn't do his homework before
Right.
asking this question. And obviously this plot line's in here, but I don't think they were doing it to do diversity points. They were just doing it because it's part of the story they wanted to tell.
Right.
But again, they're looking at the history, and this is a Danish story about Danish people. I'm not Danish myself. I'm not expecting to see myself on screen in this
Right.
picture.
Exactly.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I think it's
this,
great. I
yeah.
think it people are finally getting sick of this BS and they're calling it out. And they're going, this has nothing to do with the film we're making. Take your diversity and peddle it somewhere else. We're not concerned. We're making the movie we want to make. If you have a problem with it, that's up to you.
First and foremost, it's them making the best movie they can make, true to its artistic vision.
Right.
And if it happens to feature these things the Academy likes, fine. If it doesn't, you shouldn't care. Just make the movie you want to make.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about the Academy. They're not that impressive. Movies existed before the Academy. They can exist after the Academy.
And
when
I
people
think
cease watching the show, the awards show.
It won't be long before something like this is said and it's followed up with, no, we don't care about the awards because that's not why we're making these movies. Maybe when the awards academies want legitimacy again, maybe they'll stop coming up with these stupid criteria.
Let's be blunt. This criteria, would you say this is American criteria being shoved down the throats of filmmakers
I don't know
from
if
other
I'd
countries?
say American, but I definitely say Western. Yes.
Okay. Because like Korea, that's an East, that's its own country, and I feel kind of dirty when I see exchanges like this because I think of the Academy. I think at least of the Academy itself as being an American institution. The Golden Globes were the foreign press awards for films, and
when you hear
it makes me feel like an ugly American when I see this stuff.
When you hear our media and our entertainment representatives and stuff saying this kind of stuff on the global stage, it's like when your dirty old drunken uncle comes out and embarrasses the hell out of the family, and you're like, oh God, please no,
Yeah, Holland is its own country with its own history, its own traditions, its own way of viewing the world and life and everything. So is Korea. So is South Korea,
right,
and North Korea for that matter. But that's another story. But that doesn't sound fair to Korean films. And Korea is a rising. They're rising and as becoming internationally known for their movies now. It's starting to happen. So.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of Westerners going to see these films and going, I don't see enough of myself in these South Korean films.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And also, it's also the assumption, though, this person just assumed, oh, it's just a movie with an all-white cast. And no, that wasn't the case here either.
Yeah.
Not that they had the thing. They just did it because it was part of the story, not because they were trying to win diversity points. But, of course, it's also the assumption. It's the thinking the worst and trying to get a gotcha question. And I don't know who this reporter was. Maybe he was put up to it. I noticed that, of course, the reporter... The people that ask these questions are never named or held account. They can just do what they want, remain anonymous. I don't get it.
Well, because they're nobodies.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Chad, if you told me what this person's name was, I wouldn't know it, and I won't remember it tomorrow.
Yeah, Chad Moo from Mickelson, a very underrated actor, or maybe not underrated. Maybe he actually is more respected than I know. But I thought he made a great Hannibal Lecter. I appreciate the fact that he did a different take on it than the Anthony Hopkins version. He made it his own. So, and has just played good villains. But let's go to our final article of the night.
Absolutely. The Frasier trailer brings back Kelsey Grammer in sitcom revival, this time for real.
Yes. My boy pursues late mother. That just sounds...
Yeah.
That's a weird phrasing. That's okay. Wait, that was before Boy Pursues Late Mother. Okay.
Yep.
But look, there are good movies coming out. There's this Danish production. There's this there's Boy and the Heron. I mean,
Yep.
we don't necessarily need you, Hollywood. Get your act together. Frasier trailer brings back Kelsey Grammer in sitcom revival. I knew this would have you interested. Did you watch the trailer for it, by the way?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Kelsey Grammer appears to have slipped Kelsey Grammer appears to have slipped effortlessly. I'm getting over cold. Maybe that's something to do with this. Okay.
That's fair.
Effortlessly back into his famed sitcom character, Frasier Crane, in the first trailer for Paramount Plus' revival of the classic NBC series. That is I don't like that sentence. Frasier is back, and he's basically the same, declares the trailer below, which shows the snooty shrink in the next chapter of his life as he returns to Boston and tries to improve his relationship with his son. The show stars Nicholas Lyndhurst as Frasier's college buddy turned university professor Alan, Tox Alagunda as Olivia, Alan's colleague and head of the university psychology department, Jess Salguero as Freddie's roommate Eve, and Anders Keith as Frasier's nephew David. The 10-episode first season will premiere with 2 episodes on Thursday, October 12th, dropping new episodes weekly. The scheduling move puts the streaming series right in the middle of the traditional broadcast network's fall season rollout, and back on a night where it was part of NBC's must-see TV lineup for several seasons of his original run. CBS will also give the show a broadcast sample airing with 2 back-to-back episodes on Tuesday, October 12th. Frasier originally premiered in 1993 and ran for 11 seasons. Paramount Plus has ordered a 10-episode season, which was filmed in front of a live studio audience at Paramount Studios in Los Angeles. The series is from writers Chris Harris, How I Met Your Mother, and Joe Cristal, Life in Pieces, who executive produced with Grammer, Tom Russo, and Jordan McMahon. Okay. Absent from the series is actor David Hyde Pierce, who played Crane's brother Niles on the original show. Jane Leeves, who played Daphne, is also not part of the revival. Baby Newworth, who played Crane's ex-wife and colleague Dr. Liz Sternin, and Perry Gilpin as Crane's former radio producer Ross will both make guest star returns. John Mahoney, who played Frasier and Niles' father, Martin, died in 2018.
Right.
Frasier was the most Emmy Award-winning series of all time with 37 wins until the record was beaten by HBO's Game of Thrones in 2016. It still holds the record for most wins by a comedy series. The original series is available to stream on Paramount Plus. I remember that thing would sweep the Emmys.
Yep.
Forgot about that. Just because Niles isn't on the first season doesn't mean he's not going to show up later.
Right. And that's true of any
yeah.
of them. They are obviously they're not the main focus of the story, and it's entirely possible that they'll do guest appearances later.
I think that can be a problem too when you're doing this new series, because the dynamic is supposed to be different. So you don't want to necessarily have all the old characters keep showing up. I think, I'll be honest with you, I tried watching that 90s show. I only got a couple episodes into it because it just, the entire thing felt kind of off because the old characters kept showing up again, but they're supposed to be introducing these new characters to us. And I felt they weren't being fleshed out.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the problem with the Star Wars sequel trilogy where you need to focus on your new characters. Instead, they wasted their time destroying the old characters instead of building up the new ones, so, but what was I going to say here though? But, yeah, it looks good. It looks like his son, is this son like a working class guy? He's not like a Ivy League type? That's what it looks like on the show, doesn't it?
Kind of does. I don't know for sure, but I guess
he has a
we'll find out.
girlfriend who's a bartender. I noticed that on the show.
Yep. Kind of brings it full circle, doesn't it?
I think it might be interesting. Yeah, I think it might be interesting seeing Frasier deal with students in a university too, because he's going to be getting I guess he wants to be closer to his son, so he gets a job teaching at a university, right?
Yeah.
That might be interesting too, right? See how he's dealing with the modern college students, right?
Yeah, I kind of made me wonder how they're going to broach those kinds of topics. If at all.
I don't know. Grammer's in charge, so I know Grammer has final say, and I know he's not going to let anything. I know he's thinking about what the audience wants to see, so I don't think we have any worries there. Unfortunately, it looks like it's a streaming-only series, but they'll put a couple episodes on. What they should probably do if they're smart, maybe make it streaming exclusive for a couple months, and then air it. What do you think? Like, do 10 episodes in the fall, and then during the winter air them on regular TV? What do you think? No, you're just
I
doing
don't
it.
know. It depends. It depends on a lot of things. I go kind of back and forth between the streaming model and its relationship to terrestrial television. It depends on who the company is and if they have both outlets available to them. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what comes of this.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Are you at least interested? Maybe.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. I'll check it out.
I don't know. It looked all right to me. We'll see. Remember, he wasn't having a wine; he was having a beer in the bar. Like he was like,
right.
I'm avoiding the grape to drink with the common folk or something, right? Wasn't that
yep.
like okay? I don't know. Okay, so we'll see. Frasier's back. Remember when I sent you that fake Frasier trailer?
Yes, that's why I said it this time for real. It really is coming back.
Yeah. I sent Troy a fake Frasier trailer where they intercut scenes from the show Boss, which was about a corrupt Chicago mayor that looked like he was turning rather violent.
Obviously fictional. I mean, the idea of a corrupt Chicago mayor.
And but I did like the fact that they played that they did a warped version of that tossed salads and scrambled eggs song, right?
Yeah, exactly. But no, this time for real. Good.
Why make it if they're just going to stream it? You know what? What was his name? Quentin Tarantino used to argue streaming shows are not in the zeitgeist. He says,
"Yeah, it's true." And this is why I do feel like there. If it's exclusively streamed, that's a problem. But if it's just another revenue stream, then you put it out on your streaming service and you put it out on your terrestrial and you release it on DVD and you make your money. You double, triple, quadruple dip. Make your money. That's what it's all about. Make money.
Like, I want to talk to people about Tulsa King, but no one's seen it.
Yeah.
And I think part of the problem is I think Amazon, for whatever reason, people have Amazon Prime streaming because I think even you have it and don't realize it because you do the 2-day shipping, right?
Yep, exactly.
Netflix, that was always a common thing people subscribe to. So a lot of people have that. So those shows, I think, are in the zeitgeist. Like, I don't know if you're a fan of Jack Ryan, the Tom Clancy character.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I recommend the Amazon series.
Really? Okay.
It had its final season. At least it ended on a good note, though. I thought, oh no, they're going to kill off the character, aren't they? His doctor fiance is going to be waiting at home, and Jack Ryan. No, that didn't happen. Fortunately, I was getting scared there though because it's like, oh, it's the final season. I'm like, they're going to kill him off, aren't they? We're not going to get a happy ending. And the cool thing is, it's open if they ever want to bring the character back, either in movie form, this version of Jack Ryan, or in another series. They could one day. But
well, cool.
I thought John Krasinski was very good. That's why I was starting to think of him for Indiana Jones because he did such a good job as Jack Ryan, like Harrison Ford did. So.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a character that needs to just stay dead.
Indiana Jones at this point. It's over. They can't bring it back. Yeah.
Good.
But remember when Netflix was the king of streaming? I remember when Netflix had everything. Netflix had The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what's going on this week?
What you should do is
Other Side of Midnight. Yes.
After we're done here, go get yourself some refreshment.
Hot toddy.
Hit the head, whatever it is. Yeah, hot toddy. Actually, we're getting into the season where that would be appropriate. Yes. Go check out Deleted Scenes Other Side of Midnight with special guest Tom Connors. Chapter 2, because he ran a little late last
he got him on 2 streams. You've not been able to do that successfully 2 weeks in a row.
Well, Tom is
very
making recompense busy. Because he
was
stayed
late.
too long on Culture Casino last week. Speaking of whom, we'll be talking about Culture Casino later on.
So be sure to tune into that tonight. Tom is a great guest. He's been on your Friday streams before too. And like I said, he's called out things that, like he was the one the first calling out that the whole Chapek situation was not going to work out.
He was spot on, and he's been proven right time and time again. So,
so he's one to listen to. And like I said, you're planning to ask him again to be on your.
I will.
For a rewatch of The Wall, I believe, right? Because we did the Wizard of Oz.
We did Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz, and yeah, we'll do The Wall. Just for the heck of it. Yeah, see when he's got some time. But so my understanding is we're getting back in the groove with the Birdman.
Birdman, yeah.
Monday afternoon, not sure what time, but he is doing the Terminal rewatch with Big Al sometime tomorrow afternoon. So.
Yeah, Terminal rewatch with Big Al.
Jump in there with him. That didn't happen last week, so I guess it's happening on Monday.
Yes, and then on Wednesday evening.
On Wednesday evening, that's you and Big Al, right? With him
for
Race with the Devil.
Race with the Devil.
Yep.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I have not.
If you watch,
I don't think I have. Peter, isn't that Is that Peter Fonda?
Peter Fonda and Warren Oates. I should just send you the trailer. Everything you need to know is there. Peter Fonda, Warren Oates, they're on vacation. They're in his brand new RV. Remember back in the 70s, the RV?
Oh yeah.
It was a big deal if you had an RV.
Right.
And they're going on vacation. They're gonna do some camping, some skiing across California, and then they're camping out and they see looks like, what is this, some hippy dippy ceremony, and then some guy in a devil mask murders this girl. And then the group of Satanists see them, and then they're after them throughout the rest of the movie. It's them versus the Satanists. They're chasing them on the roads and stuff. And
it's got a Grindhouse kind of feel to it.
Kind of. It's not. It's PG rated, so that's odd.
Yeah,
I don't know what kind of feel it has. What do you mean? No, it's actually very creepy.
Kind of sound like the movie we watched last night.
It's very creepy actually for a PG movie. Remember, they could get away with a lot more in a PG movie back then. It's
true.
No, I would say it's a solid horror movie. It's got some chills in there, and it's a good movie. But I like it at least. And I guess I have to talk a bit about the soundtrack, which is not as memorable, but
well, that's fair.
Okay, but is the stream going to be as mysterious as the Dark Side of the Moon, the Wall? I don't know.
Don't know. We'll cross that bridge.
PG was different back then, man. I've said it before. Like Deliverance was a PG movie.
True, that is true.
I'm joking. I don't think it was. I'm just.
It might have been. You'd be surprised what you could get away with PG.
That scene with Ned Beatty, I can't get that out of my head. I wish I could. All right, but anyway, back when parental guidance meant something. Yeah, it's not a kid's movie. Your parents supposed to go with you.
Yep, exactly.
I think the R rated was meant for adults that didn't want to see something too intense, right?
Right.
And that it wasn't meant, just bring your kid to the PG movie. It's like if you think that, but the trouble is the G rating has disappeared.
Yep.
That Milan joke flew right over your heads. What Milan joke? PG. I don't know. Anyway. Okay. What's going on Thursday on Thursday?
So on Netters Network, we will be chatting with a Disney sheepherder, and finding out a little bit about him and his channel. And he's been in the chat on and off, and he's become a newer part of the community. Nice to have him around.
What do you mean the Disney sheepherder? Why is this gentleman called that?
I don't know. You'll have to tune in on Thursday and find out. We will ask that question.
Find out if the Disney sheepherder. Maybe I'll try to join you so I can ask that question.
There you
in
go.
The chat at least, and
there you go.
I'll ask him if he wants to spend $1,500 on that Blu-ray set.
Yeah, we'll probably bring that up too. Good point.
And Friday night, I know you're still going over what we're doing.
We have not yet confirmed what the topic will be on Friday, but I will be talking this over with Boomer a little bit more, and with deleted scenes. I think deleted scenes, if you're available, we'll probably pull you in on Friday. Whatever the topic is, we're probably going to want you involved in that. So So that's probably what we'll be looking forward to. But you know what? You're gonna have to tune in to find out, and maybe buy me a drink and hear me sing a song. You might enjoy yourself. So that'll be Friday night, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, as per usual.
Saturday. Big Al.
Saturday, Big Al is continuing his Stephen King run with Maximum Overdrive from 1986. I know I've seen it. Don't remember many details other than the Green Goblin on the front of a
Is that the Spider-Man Green Goblin?
Yeah,
it would look like that. Yeah,
it absolutely was. That's exactly what it was. I don't know why, but it is.
Sorry,
if I recall, it was wasn't it about like machines coming to life and attacking people? Really weird, but yeah. Well, I'm sure we will have fun this Saturday.
It's funny. The studios bought the studio that had the Green Goblin. So we had the rights to the Green Goblin, but somebody forgot to buy the rights to Spider-Man or something.
Okay, so we'll stick his face on the phone. It'll be great.
One of the creepier Spider-Man villains, Green Goblin, I think, right?
In a lot of ways, yeah. A lot of ways. He's a lot like Spider-Man's Joker,
Yeah, he can't be reformed either.
No, he's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
It was tried in the No Way Home movie. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. But what else is going on? And I guess that wraps it up for this week. So check out the pre-show with deleted scenes prior to the stream next Sunday.
Yep.
I think I got him off on a Warner Brothers tangent by accident because I brought up he was bringing up the Chapek thing we were talking about last week. The Chapek Iger
yep.
The big MSN article that came out, and I was bringing up. I don't have much faith in Zaslav at this point either.
Nope.
But we'll see.
I agree.
I'm just not seeing the changes over at Warner Brothers I want. I saw they're relying too heavily on DC, but are they making DC something people even want to have anything to do with right now?
Is it really DC? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the comic division of DC is a disaster. I've seen no changes over there, so I don't know. All right. Guess that wraps it up for this week.
Yep. Yes, it does.
All right. So you're going to close us out with a song?
Let me take us out. Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Oh, my. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Well, maybe. But I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face. What is a boy to do? Good night, YouTube. We love you.
Pacelli has left the building.